All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Honey Badger Radio. My name is Brian. I'm here with Allison. I know you can't see it, but she's just getting some water. And this is Red Pill Relationships. I regret belittling men. At 63, I've ended up alone, where we are going to be looking at this article that's been doing the rounds. So we're not the first to talk about it, although we
Mm.
might be able to bring something unique to the table with regards to it. I know that I've seen it going around multiple people. I think Paul Joseph Watson talked about it, Goodfella talked about it, Sargon talked about it, and probably others. Um,
Yep. But
but
we bring unique, so we'll find a new angle.
we'll see. Well, yeah. I mean, so this is a independent. Well, this is a thought piece from the I paper, which I think is I don't know what it is. It's an intellectual website, and it's written by Kate Mulvey. And Kate Mulvey is realizing at 63 that she is unhappy with her life, and that she basically feminism destroyed her love life, and by extension, it turned her into a nihilist. And I'm not burying the lead here; it's basically right there in the headline. Um,
Mhm.
but we could no, maybe we'll look at the article and find out like if there's some way to salvage something and get like some satisfaction out of your life even at 63, because this is something that I
Mm.
don't think people have talked about. So with that, Allison, why don't you do the things and then we'll get into the article.
All right. Well, I think it's I think why I know why we're all here. I think we know why we're all here. We're here to gloat and feel a suitable amount of schadenfreude at this individual. Let's be frank. I mean, I guess we could go in and say, oh well, maybe it's not too late, but honestly, at 63, it probably is too late to dig herself out of this hole. But I mean, it's not like she's in dire poverty or misery. It's just an existential crisis, really, which she could fill with other things, perhaps. All right. So anyway, if you wanna send your Schadenfreude greetings, do so at feedthebadger.com/just the tip. You can send whatever you like, criticisms, saying you appreciate us, saying you want more of what we do. Anything, anything at all is appreciated. Feedthebadger.com/just the tip. Very best way for you to send your tips and the best way for you to send your comments because they do not go through comments. YouTube's comment YouTube's comment enhancement system. I don't know what YouTube's censorship. Now we're gonna get censored. Okay, all
Yeah,
right.
why
So
don't you call it
feedthebadger.com.
censorship?
Yeah, that's gonna get us flagged. Feedthebadger.com/just the tip. And if you want to support the show, feedthebadger.com/support. And if you want to join our community, where if any show ends up getting yeeted because of copyright or whatever else, I do download and upload them in our community so you can still have access to them. It's the very best way to keep in contact with us and our content, and it is at badgernation.online. All right, I think I've done the things sufficiently, so let's get into it.
All right. Before we get started, I'm going to ask you a question. Don't freak out. But are you intentionally using your MacBook Pro's built-in microphone, or are you supposed to be using
No,
that?
it
Yeah, but
should be
that's
the
what it's
shirt.
using.
Oh, uh-oh. How's that?
Yes.
Okay. Am I
Yeah.
I don't want to say chocolatey. Am I
A lot better.
vanilla-y?
A lot better. No,
Creamy?
chocolatey is the way
Buttery?
it should be described. Nope.
Not
Hearty.
buttery?
Hearty.
No?
It's hearty, like a
Okay, my
stew,
voice is hearty.
like a
Okay.
beef
Oh, not
stew
squeaky. Not
with
squeaky like a
potatoes and
squirrel.
and carrots. Yeah, celery perhaps. All right.
But does it have like a butter base?
It's not robotic. It just sounds like the acoustics on the MacBook are not good, but this
Also,
sounds a lot better.
okay, but
Yeah.
also there is still going to be sounds of construction in the background because the
Yeah.
roof is getting fixed. And the roof is getting fixed because if we don't fix it in our climate, everything goes to hell pretty quickly. And then the raccoons, they move in. And those raccoons, they're not like the friendly raccoons from TikTok shorts. Those raccoons that up here, they mean business. Little raccoon cartel starting up in the crawl space in our attic.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
All right. So now we're going to get into the article. Let me just adjust this a little bit here. My camera. Ugh, it's crooked. Why? Sorry.
It's okay. I do this all the time too.
Okay. So this is from the iPaper or inews.co.uk. And the headline reads, I regret belittling men. At 63, I've ended up alone. I had always imagined I would end up married with two wonderful children and living in a house in the countryside. I have paid a hefty price for my so-called liberation. By Kate Mulvey.
Does she have a little feeler of consideration for the men that she harmed by belittling them? Or is
A
that just
little bit. I mean, I don't want to like. She does get into it, but I think that she's legitimately remorseful for essentially what she did with her life.
Okay,
Which
all
is to
right.
say, well, again, I'm not gonna. I don't want to get ahead of myself. But let's get. It's not a long article, so I'll read a
Okay.
paragraph. You give some thoughts. All right. A few years ago, I went to Italy with my then boyfriend James. We sat tucking into a plate of frutti di mare at a seaside restaurant. I struck up a conversation with the waiter in Italian. While I was enjoying myself, James sat glumly and fiddled awkwardly with his phone. Back in the hotel room, he asked why I had ignored him by speaking in a language he didn't understand. He said I had managed to make him feel small.
Yeah? Why would you do that? Also, this is a 60-year-old. She still has boyfriends. Oh man.
Yeah,
Good lord. Oh god. I mean, I'm not throwing shade on the millennials or the zillennials or whatever you're calling yourselves. I'm not throwing shade on the younger population because your courtship has been irrevocably screwed by all of the bullshit ideology that has come down the pike since the 60s. So
yep.
I'm not throwing shade on you, but if you're in your 60s and you still don't have a partner, not even a partner, just a boyfriend. Good lord. Okay, but
She
yes,
can't keep a man.
she
So
can't keep a
yeah, so
man.
yeah, yeah. So it sounds like just based on that first paragraph, this woman she lives a life of mm, let's
Privilege?
say it's well, look, let me just read it again. I want you to think about this because I've never had an experience like this, okay? As we sat tucking into a plate of frutti di mare at a seaside restaurant, I struck up a conversation with the waiter in Italian. So like this is like pretty hoity-toity. That's what it sounds like to me, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not cultured, but it sounds like if you're basically like, talking to waiters in Italian at a seaside restaurant, eating something I never heard of, frutti di mare, it sounds like a dessert maybe, I don't know, something frou-frou-y with very small portions and really fancy forks. And
Mhm.
it sounds like what she's pursued a life of material excess and yet she can't connect with a human being. You know what I'm saying? That's
Yep.
my that's my guess.
And this guy had to actually explain to her how being in that situation and striking up a conversation with another man while you're with your boyfriend, dining with your boyfriend, which should be sort of about the shared experience between yourself and your boyfriend. God, so juvenile. Um, it should be about that shared experience. And instead, she is alienating him. And he has to actually explain this to her because, women are so good at emotional labor.
Yeah, right.
How would you have felt? Okay. How would you have felt if your male partner and you've gone, maybe let's say you went to like Bali or Thailand or something, and he started talking Thai to the cute waitress and the little like the boutique skirt. How would you have felt? Like, can you engage in this empathy exercise before you alienate your supposed partner or someone who I would hope you'd be evolving from boyfriend to partner? Husband is, I'm pretty sure that's completely out of this woman's universe at this point. But maybe you could evolve him from boyfriend to partner, and you're trying to do that presumably through these shared experiences, like,
Mm-hmm.
and you cannot open your mind to consider his experience, like just do walk through the steps in your own mind of how you would feel and say, maybe I shouldn't do that. Maybe I shouldn't. Okay, but
Yeah.
I'm curious how she responds to him telling her that she's alienating him.
Yeah.
Which she
Plus, the fact that she sits
100%
back
is.
in the hotel room suggests that they were traveling as well. So they
Mm-hmm.
traveled to a seaside, well, a place that had a seaside restaurant. All right. So anyway, I could see his point. I spent quite a while chatting away, oblivious to how he must be feeling, and then went on to joke that this is the Italian speaker I would order for us. After all, he didn't know what osso buco meant. I was showing off.
Okay.
So, mhm.
Wait, no. This is more than being oblivious to how he was feeling. Listen to the judgment. Listen to the judgment. As we sat tucking into a plate of pretentious fruit,
Well,
I
apparently
struck.
it's fish. People are saying it's
Oh,
seafood, but yeah,
okay.
frutti di mare, I guess. So it's
Okay,
Italian
pretentious
seafood
way.
dish at a seaside restaurant. Sounds really
Seafood
expensive.
pasta. Okay. A pretentious way of saying seafood pasta. How's that? A
Mhm.
pretentious way of saying seafood pasta. She struck up a conversation. While I was enjoying myself, James sat glumly and fiddled awkwardly with his phone. No shit, bitch. And no, at no point did you stop and say, "Oh, hey, I'm excluding you. I'm sorry." Like you saw his signs of distress, and you're just like observing him. You look like you're in distress, my boyfriend. And you didn't stop and say, maybe I shouldn't continue this. Maybe I should include him. And I'm guessing you don't even have the benefit of being an utter fridge-brained autist like me. Like, I could see this if you were a complete autist, lady. But the fact is, you're putting a lot of emotional judgmentalism into your observations of your partner. I'm just saying, she's not just oblivious. She's reading into. So which is it? Is she aware of how he's feeling and reading into it and being slightly judgy about it? Or is she oblivious to it, like a fridge-brained autist like me? Seems like more it's more from column A here.
Probably.
Yeah.
So, frutti di mare is essentially a seafood pasta dish. It can range anywhere from $10 to $50. Although there are some Greek places that, I guess, where it's so good, it's so fancy or rare in its ingredients, it can go into the thousands. I'm guessing it was probably like a $50 serving. That's just for that portion. But
I
anyway,
will I will say this. I did go to Rome when I went to Europe to go to the Messages for Men and then also the Norwegian conference, which was really interesting for men. That was back in the 2019 when we were doing a lot of meetups related to men's issues, which we really need to
mhm,
get back to, guys. And when I went to it, actually going to Rome was a relief because the food prices in Norway were absolutely insane. $60 for a burger.
yeah,
60. Well, that was Canadian pesos, so like $40 for a burger, American. Like geez, oh god. And when you go to Rome, you could get like an actual authentic Italian pizza too for like $20. So it was the food prices just were substantially less. The food was better too. Sorry, Norway. Um, Also, your Sami beef jerky is absolutely repulsive. I'm never eating whale meat again. But anyway, Rome, really good. Really, really, really good food. Really annoying third world immigrants trying to sell you
Yeah.
stuff. That's not fun. But really good food, very cheap. So I mean, this could be a cheap, like she could be in like a little mom and pop bistro on the seaside, and this doesn't necessarily have to be expensive. I don't think that's the point. The point is she's obnoxious.
All right, next paragraph.
Okay.
It wasn't the first time something like this had happened to me. I have always taken the driving seat, been determined to get the last word, and was too busy with books to master the art of charm. So I guess there's a bit of an admission there. I think that to mention that they were too busy with books to master the art of charm. And have always been like basically combative, like taking the driving seat, determined to get the last word. That suggests a quarrelsome woman, let's put it that way. All right.
Yeah, and I think that she's still deflecting because she's sowing a lot of judgment of the emotions she says she's oblivious of. So she's obviously aware of the emotions she subsequently says she's oblivious to. So even in this kind of confessional, I think she's still holding something back, which is,
Sure.
did you actually revel in his discomfort? Did you enjoy it? Right? Or did you recognize it and you just didn't care? Because you don't sound like you're oblivious, so it sounds like you're lying to yourself when you say, "Oh, I was oblivious to these emotions that I can correctly identify and describe." Obviously, you weren't. So already we're starting off not very good.
Yeah.
You're lying to yourself here.
I'm
And
convinced that the reason oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I mean I think she's trying to hide behind pretending to be a fridge-brained autist. But continue.
Mm. I'm convinced that the reason I'm still booking a table for one at the age of 63 instead of having settled with a significant other is because, like so many women of my generation, feminism has ruined my love life.
No, you
Instead
did.
of him, huh?
I said no, you did.
Feminism has ruined my love life. Instead of empowering us, those ideals of the second wave feminists made us believe marriage and domesticity were to be avoided like the plague and that men were competition rather than partners.
Okay. When she says, so many women of my generation, feminism has ruined my love life, that's like saying, you take a hammer to a wall and you start hammering holes in it. And then when someone says, "Why are you hammering holes in your wall?" you say, "The hammer made me do it." No, you did it. Do you see how she's deflecting agency? This is like the second freaking time. Do you need a moment to cough?
Yeah. No, I'm fine.
Okay.
Wrong tube. That's okay. Um,
Are you okay? It's like
yeah,
a
I
lot
was
of
just I'm
dust.
drinking some liquids and sometimes it, you know. Okay. No, I think
Okay.
essentially, yeah, when you say, I mean, look, I agree that that ideology probably did ruin your life, but I don't think that it was something that was affecting so many women of your generation. Some, sure, but a lot of women they did end up having kids, and a lot of them were actually like feminists too.
Mm-hmm.
There were feminists who basically said, "Well, I'm going to hold you to this standard, but I'm not holding myself to this standard." And they got married to a guy and they had children. I mean, like freaking what's her name? Didn't she
Yeah.
get married? Gloria Steinem was like the
Yeah.
queen of feminism, or at least one of them. Um,
Yeah. And it's
yeah,
because then the feminism becomes more about a relational aggression. So you are destroying other women's ability to partner because that will increase your own market value and reduce any kind of defection threats, which would be defection threats. So that would be threats of cheating, right? So if you reduce women's ability, because feminism really does reduce women's ability to partner with men in a permanent setting, you increase your overall market value. So a woman who has any eye to commitment can punch way above her weight in a seller's market. essentially, that constructs the seller's market. And when you have a partner, it also makes it less likely that he is going to have the option to cheat. So this is all interrelational competition. I remember saying this like 2 years ago on one of Pearl's secondary channel podcasts where she puts like
Mhm.
the C listers. And I remember that I was on the podcast with a black dude who was like a more of like a on the line of a pickup artist. And when I mentioned that people underestimate the effects of female competition, I remember he really pushed back on that. You guys can find it. It was an interesting conversation. And what's interesting to me now is 2 years later, female intersectional competition is on everyone's lips. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
and
Or,
and
everything is mate suppression, like
mate
it's,
suppression, yeah.
mate
Yeah.
suppression, yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah, she
okay.
and that's the thing, like, I think that she'd probably be really, sad to hear that probably a lot of the people that she hailed as heroes successfully engaged in mate suppression against her.
Yep.
Even if they had no chance with, like, in terms of proximity or opportunity or whatever with men she could have had, but they took her out of the dating pool while they
Mhm.
stayed in the dating pool.
Yep.
So, plus, I think
Exactly.
that if you're a feminist with a man, even if that man is on a leash, it looks better for feminism than if you're like alone,
Mhm.
because women will look at that and they say, "Oh yeah, I guess you can have it all." And that guy
Mhm.
does whatever she wants or whatever,
Yep.
right?
Mhm.
So then yeah, Gloria Steinem can better sell her brand of feminism.
Yep.
Um or Clementine Ford, I think she's got a man.
Or
She's like got
Byron
a
E.
son,
Claire.
right? Who?
Byron E. Claire. She has
Bryony
a
Claire,
husband.
yes, she's got a man, right. So it looks better for branding feminism because you can say, "Look, I don't hate men. I'm married to one."
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
I have male friends.
Mhm.
But anyway, so yeah,
Okay.
this I guess this woman took it really to heart and she really like just like lived that life. And now that it's blown up in her face, she's trying to blame the ideology without even observing the fact that again, the people who led the movement weren't doing the same thing that she did. So
Mhm.
anyway,
Okay.
all right. I might have a successful career as a writer and broadcaster, but I have never had children or been married, and my longest relationship lasted 8 years. I regret this. I had always imagined I would end up married with two wonderful children and living in a house in the countryside. I have paid a hefty price for my so called liberation.
There was another thought that I had. I mean, you talked about some feminists actually getting into relationships and managing to maintain them. So she's blaming feminism when there are counterexamples to even feminists managing to maintain relationships. And then there's also me, because when I got involved with feminism, eventually the only thing that stuck or the focus that I had was on equality. So I would ask myself what would be expected of a man in this circumstance towards a woman, and I would try to embody that. I know that sounds absolutely crazy, but that was my takeaway. That was my ultimate takeaway after years of contending with feminist philosophy. And then I realized that there was absolutely no other feminist in existence ever who actually interpreted feminism that way. But she could have, like, what my point is that she could have interpreted feminism that way, which would have meant that when she had this urge to belittle her partner, she would have walked through it in her mind and said, how would that make me feel? I'm not going to do it. She would actually have an attitude of wanting to protect her partner's emotional their feelings in this circumstance, which would have prevented her from engaging in this kind of callous dismissal of how he was feeling. Or maybe if she did pick up his emotions, which is obvious that she did, she would recognize that she needs to take action to make him feel better based on my interpretation of feminism, which again, I recognize is absolutely apostate and completely eccentric and anomalous. But it's
Mhm.
possible, like it's possible that she could have interpreted this situation based on professed desire for equality and said, A man would be seen as bad if they didn't if he didn't consider the emotions of his partner, if he was alienating her, then I will take consideration of his emotions the way he is expected to take a consideration of mine. But she didn't do that either. Okay.
Yeah. All right. I was 17 and a pupil at Godolphin and Latimer, sorry, one of Britain's most academic institutions. And when I was introduced to the women's liberation movement, it offered such hope and excitement. And we spent our lunch breaks soaking up the feminist mantras of Germaine Greer and Betty Friedan. Act like men, they cried as they burnt their bras and demonized housework and the family. And you didn't even think to question it. Probably because, if I had to guess, there is, if you sound like somebody who is constantly looking to demonstrate their status, like it's important. And if you're in a big university, apparently it's the most academic institution, one of Britain's most academic institutions, Godolphin and Latimer. I hope I'm not butchering that pronunciation, but I'm sorry. And you were like, oh, well, this is like where the smartest and best people are, so I got to be one of the smartest and best. So I'm going to read the feminist stuff, and I'm going to basically say, this is me now. This is my new, like, not question it, not ask myself if this is correct, but I'm just going to do it because this is what you do. This is the popular thing to do. It's the trend, whatever, right? And I guess it
Mm-hmm.
was at that time, like being a woman. You imagine being a woman in the 60s when this was going on, and you're young and you're going to school. Like, could you imagine how much pressure there would be to like adopt the women's liberation movement? I mean, it would like, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Well, she certainly didn't resist the pressure, which doesn't speak much to her critical thinking. But what I wanted to point out is she was living a life of intense privilege, and feminism offered her such hope and excitement. Not the fact that you are in one of Britain's most academic institutions, which feels like it's missing an adjective. Most prestigious, perhaps, academic institutions, because it sounds like that meme. This is one of Britain's most academic
It is
academies.
the
Like,
institution of all time.
yes, this is an institution of all time. I think that she's missing an adjective like prestigious, but regardless, assuming that that was what she was intending to say, so she's in a position of incredible privilege, and feminism is offering her hope and excitement, like double privilege. Like, feminism is the extra, French vanilla double cream ice cream scoop on her cone. Like, I just find that really, really sort of hilarious. And the other thing is that you say that you wanted to act like men. You're not. You're not.
Yeah.
If you actually walked through that initial scenario with your boyfriend in your mind, you'd realize that men would be instantly condemned for doing what you did.
Also, if Germaine Greer and Betty Friedan are saying act like men, they're basically saying act like the version of men that we have constructed. It's
Yes.
not like real men, right? It's the
No.
Germaine Greer slash Betty Friedan slash Andrea Dworkin slash
Straight
Gloria
hack
Steinem
man.
Bell Hooks version of what a man acts like, which
Yep.
is probably, yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably exactly what she thought she was doing with this dude. But if she actually used some critical thinking, she'd realize that it's nothing like that. That he would have been condemned for treating her in such a disreputable manner. And the other thing is that I didn't realize that men demonized housework and families.
yeah, right.
Yeah, like, men spend their lives sacrificing to maintain a household and a family, but they demonize them. Even today, after all this time, men still want a family and presumably a house to put the family in. So they don't demonize family. They absolutely don't. And I don't think they did 70 years ago either. or not. I guess it would be more like 40 years ago. 40 years ago.
Yeah.
That's the 20s. Oh, good. No, that's the 80s. Like, what the heck is she even talking about? All right, so I'm good.
Yeah. Okay. So by the time I was 25, clutching a degree in French and Italian, I was a bright, confident feminist, keen to flex her intellectual muscles and to never let a man get the last word. I read Nietzsche for fun, and my bedside table has always buckled beneath the weight of substantial, intellectually challenging books. At first, men loved my wit and intelligence. You're such a breath of fresh air. I love talking to you. You're the first woman I've met who stimulates me, they'd trill, trying to get you to sleep with them. No, I just added that at the end. I don't know if that's true, but
Oh,
like, well, yeah. So she is boasting about her education, which probably turned her into the person that she is, or at least contributed to it, and that she read Nietzsche for fun. And the men were flattered her, right? Her wit and intelligence at first. Okay, that was
there's
until
a twist. Can
yeah,
Betty overanalyzes said that she's humble bragging about how book smart she was. Well, it's no longer a humble brag.
yeah,
I
right.
feel like
It's not
I feel
humble at
like I got to
all.
take a shower over all of this schlicking.
Ew.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, but it's not me,
mental
it's her.
masturbation.
Yeah, the mental masturbation. I feel like the
Well, she
products
she
are just
yeah, she
oozing out
said
of the
I'm a
screen.
success. I have a successful career as a writer and broadcaster, and I've never heard of her. So, but okay. I mean, I guess that doesn't mean it's not successful. I just don't know who that is. So that was
They
until I had
trill.
lectured them. What?
They trill. Also, men don't trill. What the hell are you freaking talking about?
She just wanted to use that word in a sentence. She wanted to use the
Men
word trill.
are categorically incapable of trilling. Even the gayest of gay men does not trill. He may burble, he may use falsetto, but they can't. Like, men cannot fucking trill. Your vocal cords just do not produce such a sound like that.
Trill.
Okay,
I've never heard that word before. Hold on a second.
yeah, let's
A
look at the
fluttering or tremulous sound, as they're made by certain birds. A warble. Oh yeah, sure. A vibrato.
flutter, a flutter, a vibrato. Okay, okay. So who creates a vibrato sound? Just ask it.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of man you're.
No, she's not. Even the gayest. I'm not even gonna say femboys because they can be interesting, but even the gayest of 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 gay dudes does not trill. Okay, because he still has his testicles. Right?
Yeah.
He may he may make other sounds, but not that. Okay.
All right. So that was until I had lectured them for the umpteenth time on the virtues of modernism. You'll never win an argument against Kate, one man said as he watched me outsmart yet another potential lover. Subtext: don't bother. Men have called me intimidating, scary, and opinionated. I now see that not only was I trying to prove I was their intellectual equal or superior, I was treating every encounter with a man like he was my adversary. Yeah, where'd you get that from? What? Yeah, that would drive men away. And
Yeah.
that's how men are going to respond. They're going to walk away.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Allison, did you
Um,
want to say anything about that?
well, yes, generally treating someone as your adversary will either cause them to submit or avoid you or attempt to make you submit, which is maybe the real point. I wonder if she, in amongst all of that groaning pile of philosophical treatises that she has on her side table, there's the entire series of gore novels. You know what
Yeah.
gore is, right? Gore is basically dark romantasy. It has a gigantic female fan base, and it's just a society of men that treat women like slaves.
Yep.
She's a woman of culture, is what I'm saying. All right, let's
All
keep.
right. If a date ever brought me a bouquet of flowers, instead of smiling and putting them in a vase of water, I would bite their head off. Can't you buy me some nice olive oil or balsamic vinegar? I said with an eye roll to one hapless suitor as he stood wilting faster than the fragrant offering he held in his hand. He had bothered to think about making me happy, and I crushed him for it.
Oh, somebody is in the special chat is saying, you don't know what you're talking about. Trilling is a slight roll of the R. She's in Britain, not in Rome. All right? When she's talking about these men trying to seduce her, unless she spent all of her time in
Definition
Rome.
of trill is a fluttering or tremulous sound as that made by a certain birds or a warble. As a verb, that's as a noun. As a verb, it says to sound, sing, or play with a trill, to produce or give forth a trill, which is a vibrato sound.
Yeah, so
Um,
it's a fluttering sound, right? It's
yeah,
not a
you could
rolling
say,
of.
look, you can probably make that noise by rolling your R's, but I don't think I think that she was just using like let's say extra language to
Yeah.
sound smart. That's it. That like she's still trying to demonstrate her intellectual prowess while writing this thing by putting in extra words nobody needs. And like
Yeah.
Allison said, men don't trill.
Not
So
commonly. Even
no,
even
not
I
commonly.
even Italian. We could ask Pepito if he trolls. I don't recall
Yeah.
that. All right,
Okay. I'm
let's
not saying that
continue.
you can't do it, Ruben the imitator. I'm saying that like again, you guys are spurging out on this word. It's how it's the context of which she's using it in. It's extra. That's it. She's just being really extra. Okay? But anyway, um I place so much more importance I'm sorry. I placed so much importance on finding a strong man who could match me that I
You,
forgot men are people with feelings. Instead, I forgot I had feelings and hid my soft. I forgot I had feelings and hid my softness. I now see that I longed to be loved, but I was too scared to be vulnerable. I was using my sharp mind to protect my all too soft heart against yet further rejection.
your heart is not soft. If your heart was soft, you would have seen your boyfriend looking uncomfortable and immediately said, I got to do something about it. Not been oblivious. And I think that you're lying about being oblivious to your boyfriend's emotions because you correctly identified them and used sort of judgmental language to describe them. I think you are lying to yourself when you're saying feminism did this to me. And I think you're lying to yourself when you say you have a soft heart. A soft heart isn't like, do you honestly think that people who constantly pity themselves have a soft heart? Right? No, a soft heart means that other people's displays of discomfort move you, and you have not demonstrated this. Good Lord. I don't even want to spend time with her freaking article, much less her. All right, let's
Okay.
continue.
So again, well, going back to the other part of this paragraph where she says, "I place so much importance on finding a strong man who would match me, who could match me, that I forgot men are people with feelings." Well, I'll give you credit for that part, but don't you think it was weird that you thought like it was like this, like I don't know, like you're this Amazon warrior queen that's like, if I will only marry a man who can defeat me in combat? Don't you think that's kind of silly? And you're 62. Like, when did you figure this out? You still don't have a boyfriend?
63. Well, she lost him.
63.
I'm
Yeah,
guessing
63.
that
I'm sorry.
I'm guessing that was the last one. That was the last boat out of
Yeah.
Haghood. It was the last one, and you
Uh,
missed it.
out of Haghood. Is that what you said?
Yes.
All right.
It was the
All right. All
last
right. All right.
train. It was last train out of Crone Station, and you just missed it.
Crone, Croneville, here you come. All right. Another thing I regret deeply is my tally of one night stands when I was younger. Ooh, the body count. I distinctly remember thinking it would be uncool to say no to the men I met at parties or dated, but I struggled to enjoy it. There was always a disconnect. This was abundantly clear the morning after. As I lay there waiting for a sign of affection, he would be singing the triumphant Had Her song in the shower. A quick cheerio, and he was gone.
Okay, yeah, but you don't offer anything. Like, honestly, it sounds like you as a person offer nothing to another human being. You are egotistical, you are selfish, you deflect blame, you don't take responsibility, and you turn relationships into combat. Why would a man stick around? And this feels like you're putting it on men. But maybe, okay, maybe she doesn't. Maybe she has an insight. I'm looking for an insight here, Brian. I'm not seeing much. I'm seeing deflections away from insights and not true accountability. What the hell? Like, yes, lady, consider what was on offer. If the only thing of value that you're offering to your partner is your body because your personality is abusive and corrosive, that's what men will, and it's not their fault. You will attract men who are just interested in the one thing because they know they're not going to get anything else from you. You will not attract the men who are interested in a partner, a mutual partner who will try to understand them. Okay, and try to help them or recognize their emotions and how those emotions should affect their actions. Right? You're not offering a partner. So you're getting men who aren't interested in one. What a shock. But it seems to be that you're deflecting blame onto men. So what are the things that she's blamed so far? Men, feminism, and not her responsibility for assuming it. And she's blamed her alleged obliviousness, which really is it's actually a backhanded compliment, Brian, because she's so much in her books. She just doesn't understand the emotions of the lesser apes. You know, that's the backhanded compliment that she's giving
Yeah.
herself in that. And now once again, blaming men. All right, let's see. This is my prediction. I could be completely wrong. There will be no true accountability to be found in this article.
Yeah. Well, it is a woman that wrote it, so. All right. I'm just saying. I'm trilling that. All right, another
can I
thing.
respond to the trilling thing? Okay.
Oh,
This woman did not use trilling because she wanted to talk about Italian men rolling their R's. She used trilling because
should I read that sentence again so that we're all on the same page?
colloquially,
Okay.
it was a way of shaming men.
I'm gonna read I'm gonna read this section so you guys get the context of her usage of this word. Okay. I read Nietzsche for fun, and my bedside table was always buckled beneath the weight of substantial, intellectually challenging books. At first, men loved my wit and intelligence. You're such a breath of fresh air. I love talking to you. You're the first woman I've met who stimulates me, they'd trill.
Okay, she's using the word wrong, guys. She's not saying these guys are rolling their R's. She's saying that they're pronouncing these entire sentences in a trilling manner. Right? What does that mean? It means tremulous and fluttery, which is an insult to their masculinity. She's using her feminine prerogative to shame men for not being man enough, to shame these men for not being man enough. That is the context. We can start looking at, well, technically trilling means rolling the R. That's not how she's using it. She's using it wrong, and that's what we're commenting on. And men don't trill. They trill, yes, they can roll their R's. They don't trill the way this woman is using the word. Okay.
Okay. Now that we're finally past that, while I pretended to enjoy it, I felt uncomfortable about sex so early on. I felt empty and used. My generation of women were encouraged to have sex like a man, in other words, have casual sex, but it backfired. Fast forward to now, the idea that women are different from men and that casual sex can be harmful to us is gaining traction. First of all, you still chose to do that, even if it didn't make you comfortable. So why did you do it? And secondly, you're still passing the buck because you're saying we were encouraged to have sex like a man. So basically, you don't have accountability when you're a feminist because everything is the fault of patriarchy. And now that you've looked back on your life and you realize you have regrets, you still don't have accountability. And now feminism is to blame for your mistakes. Like when do you say I was stupid and I should not have done that? Full stop.
Honestly, I wonder if she's going to go with patriarchy is still to blame because I tried to be a man by the patriarchal definition and I found it dehumanizing. Herpaderp, patriarchy hurts men too.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
No,
That's a.
I'm just saying,
Not
like,
gonna
I
say
don't know if
anything.
that's where I don't know spoilers. I'm just saying that's a possibility. I'm not sure. Maybe she isn't that ideologically flexible
Mm-hmm.
and she's not going for the oppression Olympics, a gold medal in oppression Olympics. But again, I hold by my prediction that there will no accountability will truly be taken on this day in this article.
Yeah.
Let's all right.
All right. In her latest book, A New Guide to Sex in the 21st Century, the Young Adult Adaptation, Louise Perry explores how the sexual revolution impacted women negatively and led to unwanted consequences. So, okay, so yeah, Louise Perry's been like a very vocal anti-sexual liberation or second wave I wouldn't say second wave feminist because she is a feminist, but she's basically like playing catch up on everything that's happened. And um again, this is like unwanted consequences. Like I'm not sure if they were unwanted. Sexual revolution. I think that maybe the people who participated didn't know like how it was going to pan out for them. But I feel like the destruction that's come from all of this stuff, feminism especially, was intentional. And I think that's
Mhm.
why they always double down on it because they want to keep pushing it through.
Yep.
I mean,
And um John, let me see. In the special chat, Johnny Nobody Knows Doe says, "Is it like a man or like a sleuth? Why is it like a man? It isn't. It isn't like a man.
that's what she's claiming. I think he's just sort of she's claiming that this is the way men are, but it's based
Yeah,
on the feminist interpretation of how men are, which is why
yeah,
I said earlier, well, what kind of man does, Betty Friedan mention what kind of man is she talking about when she says have sex like a man or be
hmm
like a man? It's not like a normal man. It's like their version of what a man is. It's like their version
hmm
of masculinity. What do they think masculinity is? Look
hmm
at look at the way they present it in our media. It's like guys crushing beer cans on their foreheads and like raping women in public. It's like
yeah,
being really violent for no reason.
yeah,
Like that's how
exactly.
they view masculinity.
Yeah. Well, it's in their theories. They say that men use rape and domestic violence to uphold patriarchy. Like
Yes.
that's it's not just an ignored action. It is a supported, it is a celebrated action. Not particularly anywhere, but we're just gonna go with that because theories matter more than conjecture matters more than reality. We don't have to actually look at our conjecture and say, hey, does this map to reality? Not when we're dealing with feminist science. Reality maps to feminism, don't you know? Okay.
Yep. All right, I got a super chow I should read out. It's been here for a little while. Richard Bier gives us $5 and says there is that one TikTok video that I think Emily W. King responded to where the woman got her husband to agree to take care of sweeping the floor. He bought a Roomba and she was complaining about him doing that instead of him sweeping manually with a broom and dustpan. Evidently, she had a fetish that he didn't indulge. I recall another story about a certain feminist who died alone in her apartment after a network of women who were helping to look after her in her schizophrenia dissolved after her psychiatrist moved away. Then he issued an addendum. The feminist may have starved to death in her apartment because her condition was so severe that she was terrified to go outside of her apartment, even to obtain food. So her food may have run out, and the network of women looking after her welfare had fizzled out after the psychiatrist moved away. Some sisterhood. Yikes. That is a level of paranoia that I just don't think that's healthy.
No, it's
I'm
I've
just
been
spitballing here. Just gonna put it
no, it's
out
not.
there, and you guys take it or leave it. I don't think that's healthy to be that paranoid. I know, call
I'm
me
not
crazy.
surprised. I'm not surprised though. I've been having fun with Grok because I get Grok to do a meta analyses of the people who come at me. Like I did this post, which was basically a meme. It was the Dommy Mommy meme. And the Dommy Mommy says,
uh, there shouldn't be any victim blaming. And then her downtrodden, overworked sub says, "What about men who commit suicide?" And she says it's their fault because of the patriarchy. And I put this meme out, and I've had a whole bunch of feminists swan in to tell me how actually it is their fault. It is men's fault because of patriarchy. And so I did get Grok to do meta analyses on their Twitter content, and there is a lot of paranoia. Right now, these women are
Yeah.
probably mostly functional, but I could see how that level of paranoia and overinflation of men's agency and bad intent towards women could tip someone over who, with a pre-existing mental disorder, tip someone over into this kind of extreme and self-destructive isolationism. It is like they are really fucked up people. And what another thing that I did is I would get Grok to visualize how they diminish men or women's consequential agency relative to men. So what that means is the consequences of your actions and how meaningful they are in the greater world, and how they diminish that relative to men. And Grok would use these visual metaphors like men are Atlas striding upon the earth, throwing lightning bolts at his command, bringing up earthquakes. In these women's psychology, that's men. And they are tiny, tiny figures hiding in the shadows, always fearful, minuscule in comparison. And another comparison he used was they're like one of those little fishes that attach to a shark, which that they can't really swim very far on their own, so they're completely dependent on the movement of the shark, and they have complete incapability. That level of helplessness, they're constantly breeding in each other and reaffirming in each other. And I can totally see that with a confound of a mental health issue turning into a negative spiral that led to this woman's death through isolation. Like that's it. It is. These people are fucking sick. And like I've been outsourcing arguing with them with Grok because I know that there's no point to it, because they're just everything they regard as a threat to self. They regard any kind of criticism of their religion, of their cult, as a threat to themselves personally. So that's why I was trying to get Grok to do these visual metaphors and maybe jar them into thinking what they're doing to themselves. But, all I do is get blocked, really.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So thank you for the super chow, Richard. Okay, back to the article. So she argues that casual sex, dating apps, pornography, and the normalization of sexual kinks. What?
It was a remora that that Grok said that feminists see women as remoras. They just attach to a host, and they have no agency of their own. They just go wherever the host, they do whatever the host does. They live off of the host. That's it. So feminism turns women into remoras. And the other good one was feminism turns women into footnotes, historical footnotes, like compared to men. And then the other one is in relation to Afghanistan. Grok was also like, yes, this is like an internal burqa, a decision, not an external decision to restrict your agency, but an internal one to embrace learned helplessness. So it's like, okay. I mean, and the thing is that once you have somebody who spent their entire or a good portion of their lives refusing to use their legs, how do you rehabilitate them? Especially when they say stupid shit like using my legs is patriarchy. It's patriarchal enablement. I'm like,
Yeah.
where do I even start with you? Like your legs are shriveled toothpicks now because of your chosen bullshit. Like, where do you even start? Okay, let's keep going. Let's start
All
by
right.
continuing.
Okay, so she argues that casual sex, dating apps, and pornography and the normalization of sexual kinks are putting women at risk. Although contraception has reduced the chances of pregnancy, she points to the risk of contracting diseases or being a victim of violence in a culture where premarital sex is the norm.
Well, then don't
Um,
do it. It's not enforced. Like,
yeah, but I mean, women are not the only ones at risk, also.
no,
Like,
they're
it
not at
sounds like
risk.
everything is like risking women to, that women are at risk of violence and being victims and catching diseases and being used sexually and so on. But it's also true of men. Like, it just has to
Yeah,
be,
yeah,
so.
yeah, exactly. Like, this is ridiculous. This is like, yes, men are just as at risk. Although for some reason men have managed to not have the level of STDs that women have in today's age, but also there's no compulsion, but there's no you don't have to be promiscuous. Like, lady, you don't have to, you just don't. Like, this is not a necessity. Nobody's expecting you to do this to pay the bills. Just get, like, unless you're, a prostitute, but that's a different can of worms. Like, you don't have, like, the presumption here is that women have to be promiscuous. No, no, you don't. And if your friends are enforcing get new friends. This is a non-issue. Why? Like, what? How is it that feminists can say, well, the pressure for women to be promiscuous is a women's rights issue, but conscription, that's just patriarchy backfiring? Like, yeah, I know how they can do this. The same reason how a feminist with schizophrenia can end up in a helplessness spiral that leads to her never leaving her house, or any other mental illness, depression, anxiety, in combination with the feminist helplessness death spiral. And this is just more of it. Okay.
Yep. Okay. Uh, She believes that society would, yeah, and also again, like, she's argues like casual sex, dating apps, pornography. I was gonna mention about pornography. She specifically, I know because I've seen Louis Perry talk about this stuff. She only talked about the pornography that men consume and how it affects men, but maybe she should look at what women are reading. I'm just saying, we talked about it on the show, but it
Yep.
might be a good idea because people are waking up to the female gooner epidemic and like what the potential social consequences or cultural consequences are for that. And I think that we can't have a conversation about pornography if we're not looking at the pornography that women consume, because it's not going to work out. Like, you can ban all, if you somehow manage to ban all the porn for men somehow, which I don't think is possible, but if you manage to do it, you would only create a lopsided problem, because now women will still have access, and it will, even if all the data about porn is true, that what the negative consequences, the negative side effects of porn consumption, even if those are true, let's say, and I'm not saying they are or not, I just think that that we should do some studies, and I'm open to that. But even if it is true, then yeah, especially that, more so than ever, we should be looking at was how it's affecting women.
Yeah.
And we're
Well,
not. We don't even consider what they do, like that the stuff they consume pornographic. It's like you can get it at, the drugstore.
Walmart.
You can
Yeah.
get it at Walmart.
Yeah.
So
Well, if even if we address men's, what do they call it? Porn sickness, or and the porn
I don't
leading to
know.
men
Porn
refusing to
addiction?
have porn addiction leading to men refusing to have relationships. Yeah, you don't address women's porn addiction, and women are also going to continue to refuse to have relationships unless a man is an 8-foot tall cow man with a
Some kind of
gigantic,
mythical beast.
yeah, some kind of mythical beast,
Like
like
yeah.
impossible, you know.
Yeah.
Zeus
Diddle of the
in the form of
Sphinx.
a swan, like, that's what I'm holding out for. My hypergamy will only be satisfied by Zeus in the form of a swan. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's going to be a problem. That's going to still stop people from forming families. And yeah, it's often
Mighty
conservative.
Joe Hung.
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
mean,
thinking of female female porn books based on
Okay, let me put
mythological,
it this way. It is
based on
often conservatives.
cryptids.
It is often conservatives that have this dichotomy and they need to heal it. They need to recognize it and deal with it. That porn for men is bad and porn for women just doesn't exist. Isn't even on their radar. Well, put it on your radar. Okay.
Yep. All right. Anyway, she believes that society would benefit from returning to traditional values about sex. Don't get me wrong, I am not advocating a return to the 1950s when women were on the shelf by 30 and getting a suitable husband was their goal in life, but I wonder if by refusing to show any chinks in my intellectual armor, I'm the one who is losing out.
How are
I
you
don't
going to
know.
get laid without a husband and getting rid of promiscuity? Like maybe they wanted to get a husband because they wanted to have sex. And that is how you have sex, with a husband in a society that does not encourage promiscuity. Like think about it. Like if a teenage boy could only have sex when he's married, wouldn't he also want to be off the shelf by the time he hits 30? Why do you think teenage girls are any different? They want to get laid too. And if marriage is the only way you get laid, then there'll be a lot of pressure to get off the shelf by the time you're 30. You know, get off the shelf while your sexuality is really high. In fact, you don't even need to appeal to shaming or spinsters. The fact that a society says to a young hormonal girl, you cannot enjoy your sexual instincts unless you're married, that itself is going to put way more pressure on her to get married than anything else. Okay? Like the aunt is only putting pressure on her to express herself in a relationship. Okay? That's the pressure, not to want to have sex. I hate to tell you, feminists, but horny teenage girls want to have sex. And if society tells them you can only have sex in a marriage, that is going to put the pressure on them to get married. Right? They're going to want to get married because they want to fuck. Because they are horny, young, bisexual. But by bisexual, I mean two sexes that come together to reproduce, mammals. There you go. And the cultural pressure on that isn't to create the desire to get off the shelf. It's to create the desire to get off the shelf in a way that doesn't damage yourself and doesn't damage others and doesn't damage society. AKA, don't have sex outside of marriage. I mean, what the hell is this? Like, oh my God, there's so much pressure on teenage girls to do what they have to get laid. Yeah, no shit. It's called biology.
Yep.
Good grief. Okay.
All right, I guess it's like a membership comment from Xeranx. So
Okay.
it comes up as a spore. He's a spore, I guess. And he
Mhm.
says, Louise Perry comes off like Phyllis Schlafly and Christina Hoff Sommers. That would make her more of a second wave feminist if she's to be categorized. Well, yeah, I know. I remember we didn't finish it, but we were watching that debate on Diary of a CEO a while back, and it was about whether or not, like, feminism is anti-male or something like that, and it turned into a discussion about abandoning feminism. Of course, no one on the panel is including the man whose channel it is, Diary of a CEO himself. None of them were against feminism. Like they were, well, one of them was like a diehard, like, all the way progressive feminist, but the other women who were more critical were still okay with, second wave feminism or whatever, or even like third wave, like the 90s resurgence. They didn't want to give any of that up because they were too, I think that they're afraid. I think that they fear men still. And I think that to completely back away from that ideology for them puts them at a risk of, losing their rights or something, which is just like, again, it's like, it's mythological. Like that's not going to happen, Um, but yeah, Louise Perry was on that panel. She was one of the women on there. there was, I don't remember everybody, but I know Louise Perry was one of them. So it was Diary of a CEO. And there's a great video actually. I think it was, I know that Janice Fiamengo was one of them, but there were a few other MRAs that responded to that video. And Janice had a nice rant at the end where, she was basically doing the whole, I'm, all of it's got to go. Like, basically, like, there's no good wave that we need to preserve. Women are not in danger of losing. Like, the assumption that if we, like, got rid of feminism tomorrow, that women would immediately be put into, like, the slave camps, it's based on a fear and hatred of men, that they would just do that. They could do that now. If men wanted to, they could do it now, but they won't do it. So, like, what are they afraid of? Why do they think this, like, illusion of, like, rights and freedoms and liberation that they have? They get to say, well, I have feminism, so I'm safe right now. That's like saying, like, remember when you played tag and there was, like, a place we called it Glue, where you can go there and they can't tag you because you're on glue. Like, that's a complete illusion, but that's what they do. And it's like, so for you to even assume that feminism is the only defense against male oppression, which is like, that is absolutely delusional and absurd, because you don't actually have it. Like, it only exists because men protect you.
Because
like,
of
they're not
benevolence.
and what?
Yeah, the thing is that this only exists because of inherent male benevolence.
Yeah,
right. I mean,
that's what
I
I'm
would
saying.
say,
Yeah.
I would argue that men can't really change this, because women have this prerogative to define the moral weight of men's actions. And so essentially what happens, if women define men's actions as wrong, other men will then punish them because of altruistic punishment. So, but the problem is that feminism, in the feminist framework, they say men have all of this power, and they say they have all of this ill intent towards women. And in that feminist framework, feminism doesn't work.
No.
All right. It does that. Your location of this is glue, therefore I'm safe, doesn't work unless men are agreeing to the rules that you're setting. And if men are agreeing to the rules that you're setting, that means that they're ultimately benevolent, which means your accusations of ill intent are false. So, like I said, I think that the dynamic between the genders is much more complex because of evolutionary and reproductive pressures placed on men to ensure that their actions maintain women's benefit. But in the simplistic feminist framework, feminism is useless if feminism's premises are correct.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
All right. Anyway.
Are we close to the end?
Yeah, this is almost over.
And not one freaking so far, I haven't seen the one thing I've been looking for, which is actually taking responsibility.
Yep.
Interesting.
All right. Let's see. So,
jazz hands.
I'm not advocating to return to the 50s. I was going to say about this 1950s, the specter of the 1950s that they keep bringing up. And I know we've already debunked the 1950s, but like, are they going to be bringing up the 1950s in the year like 2030 or 2040? Are we still going to be talking about the 1950s? Like, how far away from that era do we have to get before feminists can no longer use it as like a woozle to scare people? No, even though it's all a lie anyway. But like, how far away do we have to get? Like, what about in 100 years? Are we still going to be referencing the 1950s? I mean, we're probably not going to be here in 100 years, to be honest. But we'll see. I don't know. Anyway, just something to think about. It remains one of their.
Changing to the 80s. You notice that? No, it's going into the 90s now. Because it's always usually a generation before the great suffering, the great era of women's suffering is always about a generation before the current day.
Yeah.
I actually said that in the early noughties, like in the early 2000s, I pointed out that the great generation of women's suffering is always the great era of women's suffering is always a generation before the current era. Because at that point in time, it was moving from like the 50s and 60s into the 70s and 80s. And now it's moving into the 90s. And yeah, it's always like about a generation before the current era, and but also the 50s for some reason. The 50s are always singled out as some horrible era of women's oppression, which is interesting because that was about the era that Hollywood removed women's traditional role as a homesteader and replaced it to be a consumer. So which led to the greatest reduction in women's labor in human history. Go from 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, to 3 days, 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. That was the reduction in women's labor, guys. That happened in the 50s. And yet the 50s remains like the ultimate vortex of anti-women sentiment. Even though that society it gave women an entire extra lifetime of leisure to enjoy. That's what the 50s society did. And women are never going to forgive men for it. So I'm guessing that it will always be the specter because of what happened, what men did in the 50s.
Yeah.
What men did was they took women's role from a massive job of 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, and they gave them so much free time. How dare those patriarchal oppressors? How dare they? We will never forgive, never forget, never forgive, never forget, ladies. Never. It's the problem with no name. AKA I'm bored because I can't entertain myself. Okay.
All right. I got a Rumble rant from NovaFan21 who says for $1, notice how they never deny the success of the 1950s. They hate it, but they'll never fix it because they know the 1950s work on women. Oh, that like as a narrative? Yeah. Well, that's why I'm saying like they're going to be bringing this up for years and years. No matter how far away we move from there, it'll always be like this specter, this shadow that haunts women because it could come back at any minute. That's why they always say, I don't want to go back to that. Like you weren't even alive then. How do you know? Like
you had all the same rights you have today, except socially you were in a situation where you mostly didn't have to do anything.
Yep.
Right. I mean, you even had at that point in time, they even had widespread schooling.
Well, except for emotional labor, obviously you had to do that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, a little bit of emotional labor, but aside from that,
it's the worst kind of labor, apparently.
Okay.
Whilst I will never be a giggly man pleaser and have no intention of playing second fiddle to a man, the confidence signals I have been giving out all these years were at odds with what's going on inside.
Confidence.
So you have learned nothing, is what you're saying.
And also, you're done. Like you just lost. You just got off the last train out of Cronesville. Like you're done. Yeah. It doesn't freaking matter what you are going to do because you're probably not going to get another partner. I mean, you're at the point where you actually have to. This is really what's happened. This is the wall for this woman. And I know this sounds strange. The wall for this woman is when her body is in such a state of decrepitude that she can't even offer it. Like men are at an age where they're not even as they're not driven enough by sexuality to want to be around her, even to have access to her dusty bat cave. Right? They're just like, nope, I'm like that whole joke where the old guy in the home and he gets visited by a prostitute, and she says to him, and she's all decked out, boobs, all 7 ways to Sunday, and she goes over to him and she says, "Are you ready for some super sex?" And he says, "I'll take the soup." That's your problem there, lady. You're now in an age group where the men would rather have the soup, which means your body is worth nothing. It's not just that you're physically decrepit. You're an old woman now. You're also swimming in the pool of old men. And they aren't as driven by the one thing you have on offer, because everything else is corrosive. Like, you're a corrosive human being. So yeah, I imagine that you're that last boyfriend was your last train out of Cronesville. And there ain't going to be another one, because the goods you have on offer, men don't want anymore. They're too old. And maybe an incel. You could fish in those waters, perhaps, but you're not going to, because your hypergamy likely even requires that your boyfriend bring something to the table. Oh, good Lord.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, last paragraph. Well, yeah. I have learned to step back and let things go, and have realized that things mustn't always veer towards the satisfaction of the self. I am struck by how easy. Yeah, this revelation at 63, I came to the realization that it's not about me.
I came to the realization that a relationship has two people in it, not just me. 63. Honestly, at this point, I don't think it was feminism that screwed this woman.
No.
This is some new level. This is some new level solipsism. Sorry.
Solipsism.
Solipsism. You see, my dyslexia is reversing.
A real word that's actually appropriate in this context.
Oh, was that shade?
A little bit. Shade at her for using trill, like,
okay.
badly.
Well, but it could also be shade at me, admittedly.
No, I think solipsism is just fitting. I wasn't trying to throw shade at you.
No, I mean, but my inability to pronounce things and use words in weird ways.
Oh, yeah, I guess. No. I think, yeah, I wasn't thinking that, but yeah.
Okay, let's keep
All right,
going.
anyway. So I am struck by I'm sorry. I have learned to step back and let things go, and have realized that things mustn't always veer towards the satisfaction of the self. I'm struck by how easy and peaceful it feels to let my dates/boyfriends take the lead. It is not a case of dumbing down or morphing into a separate woman. She's still
stop doing
trapped.
this.
Can I finish this paragraph?
Oh, sorry. Okay. Her overwhelming entitlement just slapped me in the face. I'm sorry.
All right. I am struck by how easy and peaceful it feels to let my dates/boyfriends take the lead. It is not a case of dumbing down or morphing into a Stepford woman, but simply dialing down a bit of me and letting them shine. FYI, my diary's wide open. Go on, I dare you.
Magnificent of you.
Yeah.
As long as you're still doing what I want, I'll let you lead. And I won't blow my light up so that you end up being washed out in comparison. Good grief, this woman is a massive egotist. She is a gigantic egotist. This isn't the story of a 63-year-old woman. This is a 63-year-old narcissist who realizes her wrinkly butt can't get her attention anymore. And she has to who's come to the realization at the age of 63 that a relationship involves more than just herself. Astounding.
Mind blown.
Okay. Mind blown.
Yep.
I'll never recover.
And yeah, so I mean, look, I genuinely am sad for her in that, because regardless of like her personality issues. Well, yeah, no, I get it, but like the men that she did not end up with will probably recover and they'll be fine. But I don't think it's I don't want anyone to die alone, but I think she will. So that's where my sympathy comes
everyone
from.
ultimately dies alone. It's just who you end up with before that point. right? Like the
No, I
she
mean like she's gonna be surrounded by like nobody she knows. It's gonna be some like you know annoyed employee at a nursing home or something, as opposed to like family and friends and children. So and yeah, I mean yes, she brought it on herself, but she needed to seek meaning. And this is what this article is actually an opportunity for her to
Gender gap.
share some wisdom and advice to the younger generation of women to tell them, don't do what I did. But that's not in this. She's not even saying, here's an opportunity for me to like save someone else who might be like going down the same road that I went down. So I can tell them don't do that. But instead, she's like, "Oh, I'm just taking it easy now. I guess I'll let guys take the lead sometimes." But she's not going to have dates. Like they're going to dry up really quick if they haven't already. And not everything after at this point is just cope. It's just
Mhm.
cope. So,
yeah, it's just cope. And I don't I don't know if I am sorry for her because I'm not sure if she really understands the concept of a relationship. So she's not missing out on anything because she's incapable of having one, Brian. Like she's this woman is absolutely fucked by her mentality. Like so I don't even know what to say. Is it sad that she's gonna die alone? She's a massive narcissist. What's going to happen is she's going to die while imposing incredible demands on her care. The last people who are paid to give her and making herself an absolute awful person. So it's like I actually feel more. I feel more sorry for her ultimate hospice nurses and orderlies than I do her, because when she's right at the edge and she realizes that she doesn't continue into eternity, there's nothing left for the narcissist to hang on to except
right.
vitriol and nastiness and jealousy of everybody who's going to live past her, which she will be in the presence of. She will be in the presence of people who do not care about her, have nothing to do with her legacy, and she will have to live with the fact that they are going to live past her as a narcissist who thinks that they're the end all and be all of the universe. There's that's going to be I've actually read some of the testimony from nurses, hospice nurses, not yes, hospice is correct, who talk about having to deal with narcissistic patients at their end of life. There's no awakening to the beauty of existence. There's just the increasingly atavistic scramble for more life by torturing those who you know will eventually live on beyond you. That's like it's like a drowning person scrabbling onto somebody else. So, yeah, or she could have learned in her 20s that relationships involve more than just her, but she didn't. So here we are.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
Do
I
you
got a
want to?
super
Oh,
hmm?
I have that one video we never covered. I sent it to you.
What video? The
Oh
princess
God,
treatment video?
not the well, yes, the princess treatment video. We could look at that. Oh, you got to do the super chat. I will get this video.
I got a super chat. I don't have
Super
any
chat.
super chats or anything like that.
Okay, all
So
right. My
Zeranx
apologies.
gives us $5 super chat and says, I love that the fear of returning to the 1950s overshadows the flappers of the 1920s, the era one can reasonably assume is responsible for miniskirts. Yeah, but if men enjoy miniskirts, therefore they're bad.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. They could go there, but like the 50s is something that Hollywood took advantage of. So I think that's the reason. Remember, feminists always they always make reference to cultural things like shows and movies and music in order to make their arguments. And of course, those things are made by other feminists, or at least people who are sympathetic to the women's movement. So it works
Mhm.
because they get to point to it and say, look at this thing that totally happened that I saw on TV. And then, the movies are like, this totally happened, and we're making a representation of it. And now you have to reckon with that. And it's everywhere. So it's not like you have counter examples. The Flappers was probably a little bit too old. Maybe there were things written about it, but it's not quite as solid, and maybe it even is a little too far away. But the 50s feels close because we still dress similar. Like some people dress retro, and there's a lot of media that you can make reference to. So that's what I think, anyway. All
All
right.
right. So I
So
sent
what
you a
what is it?
link. Yeah, it's a link through your
Oh,
DM.
this? What is this?
Yeah. It's called What the Gender Gap is Really About. So they're referring to the gender gap in goals between men and women.
Uh-huh.
Do you want to give it
Okay.
a go, or is it?
Yeah, let me just open it up.
We can see how much we can get into with it.
Yeah, it's still downloading, so
Oh, you can't play it in the. Okay.
I had to download it first because it's not a link. You sent me a file, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I guess so. Yeah. I mean, I can play it in Discord, but I guess it does.
No, no,
Don't
no.
worry about it. Don't worry about it.
If no, that doesn't make sense. Okay, so let me just hold on a second. All right, let's see if this plays audio.
What the gender
Yeah, it does. Okay.
gap among young people is actually about.
Are you getting an echo at all?
No, are you?
Okay. Nope. Nope.
Just
I'm
politics.
good.
Katie JGLN. One thing that was made clear last year, dubbed a super year for elections, is that the ideological gap between women and men, especially among the younger generation, is widening. In the EU, 21% of General Z men aged 18 to 20 express support for far-right parties.
Far right.
14%.
Yeah,
Far right. You mean slightly right of center?
that's far right when you're really, really, really far left. So
Yeah.
that's like super
I've
far right.
seen these. I've seen these diagrams. Okay. So men and women are sort of going equal along the line, right? And then what was it, 10 years ago after Me Too or something? Women start going like zoom to the left, just boom. And men sort of go a little bit right. But women are like, let me see where I'm at here. What I got to look at myself so I can see if you guys are seeing. Okay. Right. Women are this far left and men have gone this far right. That's it. And actually women are like so far left, they're completely off the screen. They're so far left, they've lapped the entire political compass and now have their heads up their own asses. And men have gone slightly right, if that, or just stayed center.
Yep.
But that's men going far right. Well, of course, because if you're a woman, right? Yeah, and you start out here. This is a man. This is a woman, right? This is a man, and you're sort of in the same area of the political compass, and then you start sprinting off to the left from your vantage point. This is relativity. From your vantage point, the man appears to be moving at phenomenal speed towards the right, because you're going like this, right? And you are based on your vantage point, if you measure their velocity, the men's velocity, obviously they're going to the right. And they're going at fantastic speed because you're sprinting away to the left. Okay.
All right, more.
Yeah.
Of their female peers, a divide that has increased sharply since 2020, driven largely by young men's shift to the right. In the US presidential election.
No! I'm sorry. I feel
What?
like I know. I feel like this cancer is. It is. You don't even. I feel like I'm imposing upon you, Brian. This cancer.
No,
God, no.
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 No, it's
Okay.
not that.
It's just the cancer itself.
Yeah.
Most young women, 58%, voted for the Democratic candidate, Kamala Harris. And most young men, 56%, backed her Republican opponent, incumbent President Donald Trump. Similar trends can also be observed in the UK, South Korea, China, and Tunisia. While young women overwhelmingly lean liberal or left, making them arguably the most progressive generation in history.
Yeah. Okay. So at
But they
least there's
called it progressive, therefore it's good because the word progressive means good. So they're the most good people, the most good demographic of women in history, the best women.
the party of single women, friends. This is the party of single women. As soon as a critical mass of single women formed, they constructed these self-reinforcing tar pits that drags them down into a miasma of misery and failed promises to themselves and others, and also drags society down into the tar pit. Okay,
Yep.
Young men are increasingly gravitating in the opposite direction. Considering that young people tend to be both more liberal and more ideologically aligned, this is quite unprecedented. And even more so, since today's gender divide isn't just confined to voting booths either.
okay. Yes. And that's because, get this, the Democratic Party, right? It declared war on men and masculinity. It literally regards them as being the scourge that they are going to purge from society. I don't know about you. I mean, it's like I was like reading this article from the Atlantic. I think it was the Atlantic. And they were talking about how during Trump's first term, he was much more willing to cooperate and concede ground during the government shutdown.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's wielding it like a weapon against his political opponents. And, you know, wherever you stand on this issue, I was reading this and I was thinking, yes, because you have launched a horrendous lawfare campaign against the man. And he no longer extends good faith to your side. What did you expect? These are the consequences of your actions. That entire group of people that have that particular viewpoint, that apparently the definition of the Democratic Party is that men and masculinity are Satan and need to be removed from society, and therefore, and then it will become better. I mean, look at their freaking rhetoric. Look at what they even say about themselves and how the future is female and how embracing women's ways of knowing is going to create a better world. Like, this is from them. Okay. They've launched this war. So they are the party of anti-men. And when men are like, you know, I don't really want to be part of the party of, you know, hating men and trying to destroy men. Now, I don't want to be the party of trying to destroy masculinity. I'd rather not. Thank you. They're like, why? What horrible demonic force is causing young men to turn away from our party with its noble aspirations to destroy men and masculinity? Like, that's the same thing. They just don't understand the consequences of their own actions. What a surprise from a party that is comprised mostly of single women. Like, that's their
Yeah.
power base. Good Lord. Okay. You know, actually, one thing before we continue, you could probably increase the speed, get through it faster.
I
Do
don't
you
know
know
if that's an
how?
option. Oh yeah, here it is.
There we go. Go for like 0.5, actually.
1.25, right? Or
Or
1.5.
0.5. 0.5 probably will. We probably will. If it's incoherent, we can reduce the speed. Now
All
we'll
right.
listen to her trill.
All right.
Someone born on the cusp of millennials and Gen Z, I can't
Yes,
say
it's a
my
little
personal
fast.
experience suggests
It's a
All
little
right.
fast.
All right. 1.25.
the gender gap is a mere statistical mirage. Women my age usually share my political beliefs, at least to an extent. With men, well, it's more of a gamble. And it's only my male acquaintances I've watched slide into the alt-right or red pill pipeline in recent years.
Wait, the male acquaintances? So
Yeah.
you know men that have slipped into the alt-right or red pill pipeline. Are you to define those things? Like, what does that mean?
No.
And how are they still your acquaintances? Can you
Eating
like
meat.
be in the room with them without getting kidnapped or enslaved? Like, I mean,
Not
like
doing whatever
what are
she
we
says
talking
at every
about?
moment. Like literally,
Huh?
like alt-right for a man is not doing whatever a woman, specifically a woman from the party of single women, does in that moment. Like, lady, no, you don't get that influence over men. You have to actually be married one to have that level of influence. That's the cost. That's the toll you have to pay.
Yeah.
Right? You party of single ladies. Yeah, you can be fine. You can be single, but you don't get influence over men.
Right,
Yep.
of course. Yeah, of course. All right.
But that's the thing. What she's saying is that her male acquaintances who refuse to kowtow to her politically have become evil.
Mhm. They're slipping into evil, right?
They're slipping into
She's
evil.
losing them to the evil, to the evil force, to the dark side.
Of course, this isn't everyone, everywhere, but the trend is unmistakably there, and it extends to cultural issues as well. More young women than ever identify as feminists and agree that gender discrimination against women remains a major issue.
Yeah,
Meanwhile,
you know what?
young-
You guys are discriminating against yourselves more than anyone else. Like literally, I have gone through the Twitter profiles. I've had Grok compile a meta-analysis of the Twitter profiles of all the feminists who swan at me, and every single one of them diminishes women's effective agency relative to men. They have embraced a narrative of learned helplessness. They are discriminating against their own sense of self. Like these women are they're annihilating their own sense of self, and then they're projecting it onto everyone else. Just like that woman, the woman that we just read the article, her fundamental error is that she never realized that relationships involve two people, right? Not
Yep.
just her needs. And one of those needs is apparently to teabag her partner in public. Okay. Like she never realized that. Well, relationship actually involves two. Okay. And then she proceeded in her great enlightenment article. Oh, I've seen the light, to blame everyone but herself. Okay. But the problem is she has the primary control over her life. And that is what she's refusing to acknowledge. And that's what these women refuse to acknowledge. And this learned helplessness leaves them in a situation where they don't have the tools to make anything of their lives. So, and then they turn around and they're, oh, my life is a mess, so I made nothing of it. It's the patriarchy's fault. Bullshit. It's your fault. It's all your fault. Okay. I blame women.
Okay. So let's keep going.
men oppose feminism, claiming it has gone too far. In South Korea, young men now insist that it's men, not women, facing more discrimination. A brand new poll from the 19th and SurveyMonkey, conducted with over 20,000 US adults, also found that young men are far more likely than their female peers and even men in older generations to agree that society would benefit from a return to traditional gender roles. Women across the political spectrum disagree. And
Okay, but
interestingly,
traditional gender
the
roles,
gap
according to the Party of Single Women, because they're the Party of Single Women, right? And they see everything in relation to their particular chosen lifestyles. Traditional gender roles are simply being married and having children. That's it.
Yeah, that's what it
Even
is.
if it's a high-powered boss babe who trades stocks on Wall Street and comes home to her house husband who takes care of their quadruplets that they had through IVF therapy or whatever else, or surrogacy. Even that is a traditional relationship according to the Party of Single Women, because it involves a woman and a man and their genetic issue, their children. Yes,
You know what else is
society.
interesting is that this article, like they all do actually, pretty much just assumes that the position of women is like, I don't know, just kind of, let's say, by default, the good idea. It is just like
Mhm.
inarguable. Like, this is just
Yep.
what we're
Everything
for
from
this.
everything
We
from
just
their
think this
frame.
is so, like, so when they, because like, I don't know if the article is gonna do this, but I would think that if you're gonna start an article called "What Young People, what the gender gap amongst young people is actually about," it's actually going to ask, like, if men are moving in this direction, there should be curiosity about why and a desire to understand that position. Like, why would
Mhm.
men why would they feel this way? Why are they moving, in this direction? Why do they want, traditional families? What is the, like, I want to understand that position because we all have to live on this same planet. But they're not doing that. They're just like, well,
Mhm.
women want this and men don't seem to agree with it. Like, that's it. Like, men don't want what I want. Like, I want this and men don't seem to want that. And I think that's a problem. I feel like this isn't going to try to understand the male position. It's
No.
probably just going to try to demonize and pathologize it. Is
Yes.
it just going to be like, oh, they just want to control women again? They're mad because
Every
we're empowered now. We're bosses now. They're mad. They want to seize back their patriarchal oppression. That
no,
that
and
doesn't have any, like, understanding or desire to understand the male position. You do like it. That's, again, I don't know if they say it, so I'm not gonna bury the
no.
lead. But I'm just saying that's what it looks
I'll give
like.
you spoilers. No, they don't. Okay.
Okay.
And you're absolutely 100% right. Everything is from the point of view, the frame of the Party of Single Women. Okay?
Yeah.
That is the
So.
frame. Everything is judged based on that frame.
Mhm.
Makes Democrats make complete sense when you understand that. You
For
understand why
sure.
these women advocate for all of their pet minorities because these are their infant classes. And so I don't and no, she never extends herself to understand why men would do this. She only extends herself to shame them. But again, like I said, yeah, fine, you can be part of the Party of Single Women, but that means you no longer have influence over men, and men should not have to pay for your life in any capacity, even if you have kids.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
like, for example, just looking at how it's framed here, she said earlier, meanwhile, many men oppose feminism, claiming it's gone too far. So, like, just saying that they oppose it and then they put "too far" in quotes, like it's just like this completely unbelievable thing that how could they possibly suggest it? I just said that women agree that that gender discrimination remains a major issue. So you start by saying, here's what the women believe, and it's obviously true. This is what she's claiming. Women believe this, it's obviously true because women believe it, and I'm a woman, so I believe it too. But men believe the opposite, which can't be true because, like, they're obviously not, they're not women. They
Are
don't get, they
women.
don't, how could they know? I know what I feel and you don't know what I'm feeling, right?
And
And
then
then they
what I'm
say in
feeling is
South
truth.
Korea, young men now insist that it's men, not women, facing more discrimination. So now she's taking it further and saying, this is even, did you guys hear how crazy this is? There are men in South Korea making this claim. Now, I don't know if they're actually making this claim because I generally don't believe these people when they say this, because they say the same thing about us. They say, oh, MRAs think that men are the ones that are oppressed. Never said that. I think that, it's a completely different thing to say men have issues, and maybe, like, some of them should be, like, are in fact
Addressed.
systemic, right? Things that we
Mhm.
should change at the highest level. But they will say instead, oh no, you just think it's oppression. And the reason why they do it is because they know it sounds absurd. And so they use it as a way to, like, essentially dismiss our beliefs or our claims. And so when they do
Mhm.
this with the South Korea thing, they're doing the same thing. They're saying, those South Korean guys, they think they're the ones that are oppressed, but they also claim that South Korea is really traditional.
Mm.
So they're, I don't know. I don't know if you
Yeah,
guys know what
no,
I'm.
I get what you're saying. Everything is according to nothing outside the single woman's mind and nothing legitimate. Nothing
Yeah,
outside, like there's nothing legitimate out of her
right,
standpoint.
right,
She just
right.
but again, if you're gonna be the single party of single women, you don't get to have influence over men. Sorry, you don't get
Yep.
that. All right, let's
All
keep
right.
going.
Is actually slightly larger among conservatives than liberals. Another new study done by Ipsos UK and the Global Institute for Women Leadership at King's College London across 30 countries paints the
So I'm going to go back to something here. It says women across the political spectrum disagree, and interestingly, the gender gap is actually slightly larger amongst conservatives than liberals. So that means that the conservative women are not that conservative. I called it. Of course not. Like they're almost all feminists. Like they're just like what era? That's all. That's the thing. Like the tradcon women online, they're all feminists. Like they're not actually living trad. You know who is? So I just as a little story. Like last weekend, I was invited by this family, this couple and their kids they go to our church, and they wanted to have Lindsay and I over. So we finally was able to bring Jojo and have the time to go. We went there and we had some barbecue, and it was a good time. And what I realized is that they know about men's rights content, and they were really like they got because I didn't know if we were going to talk about this stuff, okay? Because I didn't want to like really get into like what I do, but it came up in a small conversation Lindsay had with the wife. I don't want to say their names, but the wife of the family, and the wife brought up a documentary on men's issues, just like randomly because we weren't talking about what we do. I don't think or maybe she asked what I did, and then Lindsay said that Brian does a podcast. And the woman said, "Oh, are you talking about the red pill?" And Lindsay was like, "Yeah." And they started a conversation. She was like, "Oh, I love that movie. I love Cassie J, etc." And then like once they knew that like this is what I do, and I knew Cassie J. I haven't seen her in a while, and everything. It just we all sat around, ate food, and talked about men's rights and feminism the whole time. And they weren't surprised by it. They weren't upset by it or anything. They were all about it. They were totally about it. And I was like, okay, so this like and these people are I wouldn't even say that they're like trad in the sense that you might expect. Like they're just normal people and they just understand the issues and they agree with them. And it's not like they even have any personal stakes in it either. They don't have sons, they have daughters, but like the wife and mother, she's like, well, I want my daughters to grow up not hating men, and she was talking about how the women around her that she grew up with, they're still single and she's married with like 2 kids. And so my point is that the gap that they're measuring is I think it's real, but I think that it's like the people that we see online that call themselves like tradcon women, they're just not. Like that woman is, I think, because they're really doing it. And I think a lot of people at my church are like that, but not like the people online, not the Tommy Laurens and the Brett Coopers and the Candace Owenses. I don't think that those are trad women at all.
Yeah.
And I think that they're just less far left than the liberal women are, but that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that they're not still feminists of their own stripe. So
Yeah. I think it actually transcends this dichotomy. Now, I'm going to qualify this. I don't think there's a lot of women who give a crap about men on the left anymore. They would
No.
have to leave at this point. And I think Shu might be one of them, but
Yeah.
I think she thinks she's moving away from being on the left, I think, maybe. But that doesn't mean the women on the right really understand what it is to conserve things and the necessity of conserving a positive relationship between men and women.
Yeah.
And that when they buy into the feminist framework, they're buying into something that's socially corrosive. Okay. And so there's no guarantee that a conservative woman is going to get it, because she might be conservative for her own interests. And I think a lot of the big conservative female commentators don't really have a genuine interest in understanding what conservatism is. It means you don't pour acid on your social institutions, and feminism is acid. and believing
But
that men oppress women is acid, and not taking into account the point of view of men is acid.
yeah, and you don't look at everything that exists in the world in terms of how you might benefit or how you
Yes.
might lose out, because
Yes.
that's the other thing. Like they don't do that. They understand that, like, you're not here to get that bag.
Mm-hmm.
That's not that important, right? So that's hard for people to do, especially women. And that's what I'm saying. Like most of when we talk about like what women qualify as trad or not, what I'm really saying is they're women first. So like the feminism is just like politicizing their nature,
Mm-hmm.
and it can have an effect on them that's outside of like even beyond that, right? But
Mm-hmm.
um but yeah, I mean, I don't think I think that like the reason why my friends from church that we went and hung out with were fine was because they were secure with each other, and they're not like the kind of people who have like a lot of friends or a big network. Like it's just their family, and then like they have a little bit of a community and that's it. But they're okay with that. They're humble enough to be like, well, I don't need everyone to know that I'm a genius or a writer or whatever, right? I just have this, and they're happy with that. So I think it's just like an understanding that like what is in what you have doesn't really define who you are, but more like what you're moving towards in terms of like having meaning in your life, and they do. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that that's the thing with that other woman. She didn't have meaning in her life. That's why she's like, well, I'm a writer and I create content, and I go to foreign countries and I eat meals that are very exotic and I can speak Italian. And it's like, yeah, but what else? Like that's nothing. Like that's not substantial. I don't know if you're going to figure it out, but it's not enough. So, and I
Yeah,
don't know.
it's more about people's impressions of who she is. She's a narcissist than
Yeah,
who she is, right? I mean,
yeah,
there's probably plenty of women who spent their life traveling, and that's authentically who they are. But
hmm,
but they're not writing articles talking about this like, oh, I'm all this, that, and the other thing. And they're just having the experience because that's what they're drawn to. Okay, let's listen to some more of this nonsense.
all right.
Same picture. Gen Z women and men are more divided on feminism, gender roles, and women's rights than any other generation. Young
You know
women
why?
are also more likely than young men to.
Well, let her finish the sentence.
All right. Let me just. I have to get the.
You can't use the space bar to stop and
No, I
start?
can, but I'm doing other things.
Distance themselves from religious institutions, many of which, after all, still cling to traditional complementary roles for women and men.
Okay, stop. Complementary role. She's not even talking, like, she's not even framing it as some kind of as some kind of oppression of women. It's just complementary. So if you believe that men and women are complementary, you're a conservative. Like, for example, if you believe that women give birth and men inseminate, you're a conservative.
Yeah.
Uh, like, this is the complete deterioration of thought here. Like that, and the complete deterioration of anything. And here's the thing. She talks about this like um that traditional gender roles will save society. Yes. The way that you've defined traditional gender roles and complementarianism is basically human reproduction at this point. And guess
Hmm.
what? You need to do it in order for society to have a future. Like, I can't believe, like, we're here though. We're here. We're at the complete destruction of the concept of human reproduction because of the party of single women. What does the party of single women want to do? It wants to maintain itself. It wants to maintain its boundaries. It wants to make sure that the tar pit stays sticky so that no woman escapes and potentially reproduces, God forbid. Oh no, sorry. Goddess forbid. But it's okay, so I just found that funny because it's like she's not even saying they're oppressive. They're just complimentary, guys. That's the big problem now. That men and women might work together. Maybe in different spheres, but ultimately for the same goal. The oh, That's the dread patriarchy right there.
Yep. Well,
Okay.
that's just it, Logue. Like what constitutes traditionalism starts off sounding reasonable to criticize, and then it moves into just like normality. Like that's what I'm saying. Like just there that complementary roles are called traditional, and it's done so intentionally as a pejorative. So like where do you move from there? I guess we just don't have kids anymore.
Nope.
I guess we don't have families. We
Nope.
just don't do any of it because it's too
No,
traditional.
we just expand the
And
party
then
of single women.
what?
We just expand the party of single women.
Yeah.
We just
Exactly.
that's how the party of single women reproduces, by creating more single women who are
Seems like
incapable.
it's going
Sorry?
to implode on itself, sure, but yeah. That
Yeah,
is
well,
the purpose of, at least if the only thing you're after is power, political power, then that's what you do. But it's limited because you're going to run out of people because people aren't having kids, and then so there's not going to be any single women because there's not going to be any women.
they have absolutely no sense. The funny thing is they talk about the future as female, but I don't know if they have the conception of future and how it works, because that would require systems thinking to be able to project into the future. I don't this is honestly why the Bible's like women submit to men, because these categorical intellectual failures of imagination over understanding things about how consequences flow into the future, how systems work, how multiple people work in a system, how complementarianism is actually important, all of these abject failures of intellectual capacity seem to absolutely multiply when women get into this tar pit and start reinforcing their failures. It just becomes a cascade, a mental contagion, a gigantic katamari, right? Katamari ball of intellectual failure, just sticking to everything. And this is probably why women in the Bible says women submit to men, to avoid this.
Yep. All right, back to the
But
video, I guess.
on the other hand, I mean, it is quite a privilege to watch how human social systems deteriorate into feminine-led entropy. Is it not? I mean, we're at the front row seat of the fall of the Bronze Age, the fall of the Western Empire. The fall of Sumer. We got a front row seat, and everything's being recorded. So, maybe people will write an AI with the wisdom. Okay, let's
Right.
let's keep going.
Even when it comes to defining life's goals, the gender gap persists. In a recent NBC News Decision Desk poll, of 2,970 Americans aged 18 to 29, the respondents were asked to select the top 3 things that define success for them from a list of 13 options. And while both genders surveyed agreed that a fulfilling job career, having enough money, and achieving financial independence are all important, young women also ranked emotional stability as a top priority. Whereas young men were more concerned with making.
Okay, if they rank emotional stability as a top priority, if they rank, then they're going about it ass backwards, because there is nothing in this ideology that encourages emotional stability. Emotional stability is encouraged by recognizing the consequences of your actions and having faith that they affect outcomes in your greater world. That is the exact opposite of what feminism teaches women. But continue on with your bad self. No wonder they start blocking me when I start pointing this out. If
Yeah.
that's really what they want, they're like, I want emotional stability. And I'm here saying, yeah, you are completely unstable to an insane degree. They don't want to hear it. They think emotional stability is getting everyone to agree with their nonsense moment to moment, I guess.
All right. So she started a sentence saying, unsurprisingly, the differences.
The differences become more pronounced when you compare General Z women who voted for Harris with General Z men who voted for Trump, as you can see in the table below. For example, Trump voting men consider having children as the biggest accomplishment, while for Harris voting women, it's the second least important thing.
Wow.
Yeah. So is that so? Like again, you have to ask yourself: does wanting to have children Like, why do men put that as their highest priority? And is that wrong? And if it is wrong, why is it wrong? Like that's like, well, she won't ask that question, but that should be what you would ask, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if she's gonna land on even questioning that outcome. She might just be like, well, women should be able to just tank society.
Press enter or click to view image in full size.
Ugh.
Source: NBC News decision, desk poll. However, while men and women who voted for Harris are broadly aligned in their vision of a successful life, differing on just one point in their top 5 priorities, within the right-wing bloc, the gender splits widen again. Marriage and parenthood are nowhere near the top for conservative General Z women, yet for General Z men, both are. Instead, Trump voting women put more emphasis on independence and spirituality.
God. Yeah, of course. Women are cooked, guys, and have been for a while. All right. Should we keep going?
Yeah, I have the graph here. If you want to take a look at it, I gave you a link to it.
Yeah. Actually,
Um,
well, it's okay. Want me to display it on the screen?
I'm not sure. Do you think it's worth it?
Small.
Oh yeah, it's basically, yeah, it might not be worth it, but it does illustrate the gap. And of course,
Yeah.
men who are drawn to the party of single women are going to have more aligned values.
I can show I can get it from the article. I have the article here, so.
Okay.
All right. I think we looked at this before. So, female voted for Harris, male voted for Harris, female voted for Trump, male voted for Trump. I think we looked at this before. So, actually, even I think, let me see. Yeah, okay. So males that voted for Harris even have being married and having kids higher than the females. So imagine being a dude for Harris and wanting to marry a woman for Harris and hoping to get married and have kids. Um, but yeah, I mean, only the men who voted for Trump are the ones that are seeing this. And again, some of the other stuff on this list support other things, right? So like wanting financial independence and having a job or career you find fulfilling, both of those things exist to support having children and being married. So they don't like,
Mhm.
you can't have kids if you don't have money, or at least that's the attitude, right? Like we got to be able to make money and so I got to have a job, and I might as well like the job because I want kids, right? Because I want a family.
Yep. Okay, let's go back to the video.
All right.
As writer Jill Filipovic, commenting on this recent poll, notes in Slate, for women regardless of politics, and for liberal men, it seems that children and marriage may be components of a good life, but they aren't considered some sort of accomplishment. For conservative men, they are. Perhaps the big divide here.
Okay, so here's the question. What do these people expect from the future? Are you just going to import your labor from cultures that call you the great Satan? Like, is that what's going to happen? Okay. All right. So you have
I
chosen
don't
the
think they think
option.
that far ahead, though.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I just said they
Like
don't
I think that
understand the future.
okay, for women regardless of politics and for liberal men, it seems that children and marriage may be components of a good life, but they aren't considered some sort of accomplishment. But okay. So we got to ask ourselves, is family and children, should we even view that as an accomplishment? Because I think there's an assumption by Jill Filipovic saying that everything that people do in life is a desire for an accomplishment, something that you can like hang on your, I don't know, like hang on your mantle and look at, like I don't know, right? Or is it just like a natural biological desire to like have children, like it's like it's in our DNA, like
Mhm.
all animals. Like I don't think that birds are like talking about accomplishments when they're reproducing, when they lay eggs and then pair up with another bird. It's just, they're just like, this is what we do. So I think first of all, we're making it into something a little bit grander than it needs to be in a material sense. Like, oh,
Mhm.
I just want to be proud of this. I want to accomplish this thing. Like having babies is not really an accomplishment. A lot of people have them all the time, but I do think that it's biological for one, and I think that I guess what they call conservative men at least admit that, like, this is true about ourselves as men, that we want this. And I think liberal men pretend like they don't because it's just a different strategy to get women, though. They're like, well, I don't want to make this a big thing, right? Or maybe
Mhm.
they genuinely don't
I
think it's
wonder
worth it. But what I
Go
do
ahead.
think is that by not seeing it, having a family as the, I guess you could say, the goal of a search for meaning, that's what I think it is. Like, seeking meaning is not the same as seeking accomplishments
Yeah.
or praise. And I think
Yeah.
that people who start families are, or even if they don't, like if you go into, like, you might be looking for meaning in another way. Let's say you can't have kids, so you go into like some kind of like mentorship program, or you coach a team, or you go into education, or fostering or whatever. But like, I think that it's having a family is not the same as getting a job, or like saving money, or
Mm.
buying something.
Yeah, yeah, I know
I
what you mean. It's
Yeah,
it's it's the focus on trying to have a legacy, something you leave behind when you die. And I just realized what could actually explain why we have a concept of death, because there's a lot of complication in explaining the psychology of being conscious. Like there's some serious drawbacks to it. It's very evolutionarily expensive. Not just evolutionary expensive in terms of cognitive problems that it creates, like depression, anxiety, etc. Although other animals can have that too. It's cognitively, it is actually physically very expensive. Like 20% of our calories go to our brain just to keep to maintain the level of cognitive function that we have. So it's an extremely costly thing. It's an extremely costly biological phenomenon. And there's a question of how it persists and why it persists. And probably it's because it spurs people to pursue legacy, and legacy is group fitness, evolutionary fitness of the group. So you plant a date tree that your grandson will be able to harvest from, or your community will be able to harvest from. You mentor underprivileged youth because they will turn around and reinvest what you've put into them into the community, which will improve everyone's resources collectively. So I know what you're saying, Brian. It is the concept of legacy. And I think that, remember we were reading, okay, of course you remember because we just did it. We read that ridiculous article by that narcissist. She doesn't know she's going to die. She hasn't contended
yeah,
with that. She hasn't thought about that. She hasn't had that moment where it's like, oh shit, what happens after? What am I doing with my life? Like, what gives it meaning? And what gives it meaning when you have contended with the fact that you're going to die? And narcissists really, really have trouble with that. I have a personal anecdote about that I'll give you in a moment. But when you die, and when you have struggled with that question of purpose and meaning, usually the end result of that is, I have to give to someone other than myself. I have to lift up people other than myself. Right? I have to give to the community that's going to exist after I die if I want my actions to have real meaning. And that spurs that desire for legacy. And I think the big question here, and this is what I think you're talking about when you talk about, well, what they're actually, this is a search for meaning, and meaning doesn't come from achievement. It doesn't come from having a great job. It doesn't come from being able to eat fish pasta in a seaside resort in Italy. It comes from something more. It comes from giving to something greater than yourself that you know will last after you die. That's where meaning comes from. I mean, if you don't need it, then so be it. If you can contend with your death and you're just like, well, I'm fine with all of the transitory pleasures of life, that's fine. You're probably not writing stupid articles like this. Okay. But these people have not contended with their mortality, and that hasn't spurred them to try to pursue developing some framework for a legacy. And they haven't contended with their mortality because they think they're going to exist forever. Because I don't know if they understand consequences leading to future. They can't comprehend a future without them in it. That's why that woman was like the way she was. She probably can't comprehend a future without her in it because she's a narcissist. And my personal anecdote is that we had to deal with a narcissist last year. I don't know how detailed I should get to their relationship to us. Just it was a family member.
Oh
And
yeah. I think I
yeah,
remember that, but go ahead.
yeah, maybe I should stop being very clear about what the relationship is. But anyway, that individual got into a gigantic fight with my husband, and part of it revolved around the inheritance that they were both going to receive. And my husband told that individual, you have serious health issues. You're not going to be here forever. And that individual went absolutely bonkers or just ape shit. Like they took it as a personal offense. And he wasn't saying it like, "Oh, I'm going to dance on your grave." He's saying, you got to get your ducks in order because you're not going to be around forever and you have health challenges. So this is going to be something you need to deal with in your future, or you are not going to be in a very good situation. And that individual just had an utter meltdown because he had done the unthinkable, which was reference a time when they didn't exist. And that person is a complete narcissist. Narcissists consider death to be a personal offense. They don't contend with it. And they certainly don't contend with it to the point where they understand that they face the meaninglessness of life without putting yourself to service of something greater than yourself. And like I said, if you're the kind of person that can contend with the meaningless of life and just be like, I'm fine with that. I'm just going to enjoy my life. I'm going to enjoy the things I enjoy, and that's fine. Then fine. Again, you're probably not a narcissist writing nonsense like these two women. Okay.
All right.
I hope that was helpful. Oh.
No, I mean, yeah, it's just you added on to what I was saying.
It's one.
I think that we put a little bit. The problem is that we're looking at this perspective in too much of a presentist, like right now, just me kind of perspective. And I think there's a lot of that, and people don't know that they do it, right? But like someone who lives, like if a man wants to start a family, he is saying, I'm ready to no longer live for myself and live for
Yes.
some other people who I need to provide for basically most of my life. Like basically it's like the stages of growth. Like there's the boy, and then he becomes an adolescent, and the adolescent learns about, like what it means to be an adult, and then he becomes he becomes a young man, and then he becomes a father. And when he becomes a father, it changes. Like he's no longer the knight that's like trying to get the girl. He is now the father raising his own knights. Yeah, his own children, right? So it's like you enter a different stage, like another life. It's starting a new life with a new purpose and goal. But these are not material things. These are not things that you just say, look what I have, look what I did, shower me with praise. Like that's still kind of like in the childlike mentality, where a boy says, Mom, look what I can do, and he does it. You do that because you're like figuring out where your boundaries are at, like where the limits are that you have, and how you can surpass them. And this is how men develop. They test their limits, But once you have that figured out, and then you start going into the world, you're like looking for um someone that's going to support you, and you know, if you want to start a family with someone, you want someone that's going to be supportive and is going to love you, and they're going to help you in the same way that you help them, because the reason why is that when you have kids, then you know that she's got your back, right?
Yeah, and she's got the
And
kids back. Yeah.
yeah, and the kids back. Well, by extension, that would be, but the thing is, once you're having kids, your life is about them now. You know,
Yes.
it's not about you anymore, at least not to the same degree. And that's what I'm saying. Like this whole thing though, these studies that we're looking at here are just showing how few women are even perceiving their life path that way.
Yep.
Where you know they get to be in their 60s and they're still doing
Yeah.
adolescent things, like writing
Yeah.
things, and they're like, "Well,
And
wait a
having
minute,
boyfriends.
why am I miserable?" Yeah, and they have boyfriends, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I think you're going to find that this woman comically misinterprets why men want to have children.
Yeah, of
You know,
course, right, of
and the
course,
thing
because
is that our society
yeah, go ahead.
shields women from death. So they
Yes,
never really contend with that. You know,
yeah, we've shielded them from so much. Yeah,
I often wonder if my entire outlook was permanently changed by, being bombed. I say it, but it's like, it wasn't like a really bad bombing. So like there wasn't like a loss of infrastructure and gigantic craters everywhere and hopelessness. But it was definitely scary as hell. Like it was, well, I mean, I don't even remember feeling fear, but I'm sure it was scary on some level. But that experience of going through, waking up to air raid sirens, going down into our makeshift bunker, which was not anything like a bunker. It was just a table with a mattress over top, just so that all it would do would prevent us being shredded by glass, which we had taped up too, so that it would shatter. It wouldn't shatter and fling everywhere. Hopefully, that was the logic. And then having the anti-missiles go off, and the sound was unbelievable. And we were like I could take my bike and bike to a munitions depot of the US Army. So we were a strategic target. And if we had been hit, we would have been completely vaporized instantly, and that would have been the end of it. Period. But the sound of all of that was just so huge. And I often wonder if that, like, facing that moment where you don't know if you're going to be alive in the next moment. You don't know if you're going to be
yeah,
completely erased. I wonder if that changed my mentality on a fundamental level, that like there are certain things that when I hear these women talk, I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? And this is one of them. What she's about to talk about. She doesn't understand the idea of men recognizing that they want to serve something beyond themselves, and that be children. So she's reinterpreting it through the lens of the party of single women. So let's hear what she has to say. And this is the
all
big
right,
thing. This is the payload.
all right,
family to look like, but in how one conceives of parenthood in the first place. For Trump voting men, having kids may be a kind of flex, a status symbol, a feather in their cap, and, conveniently, something for which women actually take on the lion's share of the labor. It's true that children and marriage often confer personal, social, and economic advantages for men, boosting both their status and perceived authority. Still, presumably those who grow up conservative and carry those beliefs into early adulthood marinate in the end. Same ideological sauce, one that insists women treat these milestones as their ultimate achievements too.
Okay. Did you see that?
yes, of course, yeah, a feather
Everything
in
is
their cap. I didn't know she says this, but I just said that's what
yeah.
they're gonna look at it
Yeah, that's what
like
we both.
like it's some kind of like, again, like they're children. Like if you have kids, you know that that you love them, but they're not like a trophy.
No.
That's like not a thing. You don't display them like a
Well,
trophy.
some parents do, but that
Perhaps,
they
but
end
I
up
don't think that
having
that's common. Yeah.
they're narcissistic parents. So, but
Mhm.
I mean that happens, but that's not the majority. That's a specific subset. But she literally, like, you're talking about men wanting to sacrifice themselves for a legacy. She literally reinterprets that in an egotistical way. Economic gain, which is basically fathers knuckling down to pay for their families. What a freaking loon.
Yeah.
Social gain. What social gain do fathers get? I don't know. I think mothers get far more, and then also some kind of achievement. Like all of these are egotistically based, which basically says that she has not contended with the fact that she is going to die. And people who have contended with that, and they default onto this kind of enlightened nihilism, which I'm just going to enjoy the things that I enjoy, walk lightly on this earth and whatever else. They don't write stuff like this because it is also childish to them.
Yes.
It is also egotistical to them because when you go through that, you have to let go of this egocentric viewpoint, right? And they don't write shit like this. Like when you truly contended with your mortality, you have to let go of an egocentric viewpoint. And even if you default onto, hey, I'm just going to live my life the best I can, even if it's just for me, you don't write shit like this. Because you don't harbor this level of hatred towards others. There's no point to. There's no point to have this level of jealousy and resentment when you've truly contended with your mortality. Okay, let's keep going.
All right.
So why don't they? What else is pulling young women and men apart? A recent study in the European Sociological Review examined ideological differences between young men and women across 32 European countries and found that these gaps are the most significant in countries with greater gender equality.
Maybe because it's not working out for men or women. Greater gender equality. And again, well, I think she's going to mention it, right? The paradox of like the more equal a society is, the more divergent the people's lives paths, men and women's life paths are, or at least what they do. And they're not going to, again, so like self-consumed, so like up their own ass. They don't even say to themselves, why is this happening? Maybe we're wrong. Like there's just no ability to do that. Instead, it's just like, this must be men's doing. Men are doing something wrong.
That includes the Nordics, some of the most egalitarian countries in the world, as well as the Netherlands and Slovenia. The authors link this to the so-called Tocqueville paradox, which suggests that social progress can, paradoxically, lead to greater frustration.
Okay.
That's a weird way to phrase it. What do you mean social progress?
Yeah, well, I mean, if men have to concede all of this stuff, plus they have to concede their desirability, I could imagine why they get frustrated. If they have to see all of these progressive programs elevating women ahead of them, meanwhile, women continue to judge them based on their achievements, which they are artificially handicapped relative to women, I could see where the frustration might come from. Like this is, and again, this woman is seeing achievements as like little baubles she wears on her bodice, as opposed to a means to the end of building a legacy. And building a legacy isn't egotistical necessarily. Well, I mean, it might be a little bit, but it is the idea of your actions building something for the future, right? That gives those actions meaning, those actions and choices meaning. It might be considered egotistical, but it's egotistical based on a recognition that the ego ends, which is not narcissistic. I mean, we do need egos. I mean, healthy ego. Otherwise, we wouldn't function. Right? So, yeah, anyway, but I wanted to go on the special chat. Johnny Nobody Knows Does. It wasn't Gaza. No, I'm neither Muslim nor Jewish. I'm actually Dutch Catholic, which if you understand the Dutch is fairly weird because the Dutch are mostly Protestant. So I am a religious minority in the Netherlands, or I've descended from a religious minority in the Netherlands, but it's the Netherlands, so they probably didn't care that much. or possibly they did, and my family has experienced persecution way, way in the past, in a past time that no longer matters. So I can't actually sue other Dutch people for like reparations. So anyway, that's what I
Yeah.
am. Catholic.
Okay.
I was baptized Catholic. I don't know if I probably am by the very loose definition of what it is to be Catholic, but you know, there you go. If you
There you
needed
go.
to know.
All right.
And while this paradox doesn't imply that frustration could be limited to just some groups today, and when it comes to progress on gender equality, that does seem to be the case.
Oh, that was the end of that paragraph. I
It's
got a
not
super chat.
progress. It is not okay. I gotta
No,
yell this. I gotta
no.
yell. This
I
is
got
not
a super
progress
chat, but
towards
it's not
gender
progress.
equality. None of this has been progress towards gender equality because you haven't challenged the notion that men are still defined by protecting and providing women. All you've done is pretend it doesn't exist. None of
Yep.
this is gender equality. That's the great lie. It's creating frustration because you only measure women's side, you only help women, you only look at the situation for women, you only care about the harms done to women. You never measure, you just ideologically you say, "Well, that doesn't exist in my framework, the harms for men. Therefore they don't exist." And you wonder why the group of people that you are marginalizing is getting frustrated. Oh, I wonder why men are leaving the left when the left has declared war. I wonder why. I wonder why men are leaving the left when the left has declared war on them. It truly is a mystery. I wonder why Trump has been using the government shutdown as a political weapon towards the people who have been waging lawfare against him for the last, 8 years? I wonder why. Like, consequences to your actions. Just because you think they're illegitimate doesn't mean they don't exist. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
In many countries, young women now enjoy the level of freedom, autonomy, and opportunity unlike any generation before them. We graduate from university at equal or even higher rates than men. We're increasingly entering male-dominated fields, from STEM to skilled trades. We
No,
buy
you're not.
homes on our own.
Trans women are entering STEM. You're not. Okay. Okay. You should read that super chow
Another one came. Oh, hold on.
or super chat.
Oh, the super chat. Yeah, yeah. Albatross gave us 5. I didn't read that one before. Thank you, Albatross, and says it's funny how some folks, women, claim to be emotionally intelligent and yet have zero idea how human beings work. Go figure.
Yeah, no shit.
Well, no, it's they can't see anything outside of what they want in the moment. That's it. Just comes back to that. Like this is what I want, and how I see the world is around what I want in it. So when something doesn't go along with what I want, I'm baffled. Like I can't possibly because of why don't you want what I want? Like why don't you want me to be comfortable and happy and safe, and like living in abundance and all of that? Like what do you why do you want to take that away from me? And so they just this is how disconnected they are. So we've made them too safe is what I'm saying. We've made them way too safe and way too comfortable, and I think that women just have a completely warped view of reality because of it.
Manage our own money and make our own choices about our fertility and reproduction. The most literal form.
You make everybody's
but
choices.
also, not coincidentally, the most contested today.
So again, this woman just made the case that women in many countries are about as free as it gets, as liberated as it gets. And yet she still has to convince us that they're also still like it's as bad as ever as well. Because it's got to be both of these things. It's got to be. It can't.
It's never
Women
been
can't be
better.
free because then they're no longer oppressed. Then we don't have like that narrative. So they got to be like either oppressed or on the verge of losing everything because men have like drawn a line in the sand and said, no, we're not doing any more of this, which is
It's
essentially
better.
what the shift is, right?
It's
And
better than ever, but it's never been so bad.
yeah, it's better than ever, but it's never been so bad. Women are somehow doing really well despite men's like being
They're
like the biggest
lurking,
obstacle.
Brian. They're lurking. They're waiting. They're plotting. They're like Sauron on his mountain.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
And although there are still caveats and asterisks that accompany these freedoms, which become particularly salient precisely when we have children and or enter into relationships with men.
Asterisks when you have these freedoms. You mean you have to
When you
accommodate
have
other
kids
people.
and when you get into relation with men.
You have to
So
accommodate other people. It's like that woman discovering that there might be another person involved in a relationship besides herself.
yep.
That's the asterisk to women's freedom. Like, gosh, I want to be married, but why do I have to have a husband? Why you? Oh man.
Right.
This is why cultures that function never gave them these rights.
Collective
Okay.
wield arguably more power than even just a few decades ago. And we embrace and enjoy that power. Yes, even conservative women, the tradwives and Erica Kirks of this world might work overtime selling the fantasy of a traditional lifestyle. But in reality, they don't exactly practice.
It's not a traditional lifestyle. I mean, it is with a lot of them because they're homesteaders, not homemakers. But it's not like the 50s homemaker is not a traditional lifestyle. A traditional lifestyle is both the men and the woman come together and put their labor to the service of producing a family. I think that might be the source of the problem here, because we still expect men to put their labor to the production of a family, but we don't expect women anymore. Like Peter writes the issue that we need to, or no, the individual from India who talked about the importance of the dowry. You talked to him, didn't you?
Yeah, this is Shah. No, I
This is
know.
Shaw,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I just,
basically, when we quit, but the romantic model is what killed what we used to do with marriage, where it was like a bit like a business decision. And you
mhm.
might say that's a bit cold or whatever, but that's only because like the romantic model is so appealing, but it's not really people's reality. Like you can, what we I don't think we're gonna go back to that, but it'd be nice. But I think the dowry model makes sense because you're both you're gonna prepare people for that. So like you can make sure that you're not going to be in debt. You're going to make sure you have money saved up. You make sure that you have some skills, like skills to
Mhm.
build the business with a partner. And then you probably all know each other anyway. So it's not like out of the blue you meet some stranger and you got to marry that person. It's usually because the family is coming together and becoming a larger family. So everyone
Yeah.
knows each other. But we don't have that. So like the idea of I guess that kind of arrangement seems like really strange to people. But
Yeah.
we did dating and the romantic model for what, like a couple hundred years, maybe, and
Yeah.
maybe if that, right? And I think that that's sort of like we're reaping the spoils of that per se.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Okay, so let's
all right,
finish this off. Now, I
yeah,
guess finish is sort of a
Work while
doing a
married,
lot of work.
earn degrees, voice their opinion, and, I'd assume, have bank accounts, though doing all the things feminism made possible.
Spoken like someone completely ignorant of the history of finance. As a
yeah.
Dutch
Well,
person, I am deeply offended by her ignorance. As a Dutch Canadian descended from the Dutch, her ignorance of modern finance is deeply offensive. Continue.
yeah,
As society's enemy number one, certainly, requires a level of cognitive dissonance so high, it's almost impressive. Still, political affiliation and even traditional values clearly don't diminish women's desire for independent self-determination and power over their, which is also reflected in the surveys above. But women stepping outside of their designated role and enjoying it.
Okay, all right,
Being
stop.
perceived as a loss.
So women actually dedicating themselves to the legacy of preserving the society that gave them all these fucking rights in the first place is too much to ask. They're
mhm,
just going to grab the bag, and they're going to grab the bag from their future daughters that won't be born and the future women that could have benefited from this society, managing to scale it up and actually bring it to Afghanistan in a way that doesn't cause the Afghanis to just, you know, bunker down and insist one even further on themselves on that particular, no. These women are arguing to grab the bag and enjoy the spoils with no sense of investment in the society that gave them the bag in the first place. This is like what she's doing here, and her argument she's making here is such an incredibly, like, she is displaying such a level. I don't even know how. I'm trying to find the right words. Such a level of entitlement, selfishness, narcissism. Like she is like I said it sort of tongue in cheek that this woman demonstrates why women didn't have rights in the past, which they did, by the way, guys. I'm just being facetious. But she demonstrates why women should not have power. No sense of responsibility to the system that gave her all of this. No sense of believing, like she just doesn't even have an instinct to give back to the system that gave her all of this. It's like this is the absolute void at the heart of femininity.
Yeah.
Like that we're staring at it right now. You know, and honestly, like I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to give some more historical context. But this is a woman who has no investment in her society, right? Like let's use their example of Afghanistan. Okay, we send young men into Afghanistan to go and die in the service of bringing their women rights. Are they willing to die for those rights? No. Nope. No. At least not in large enough numbers that it matters. Right? So they don't get them. They're willing to take the Taliban's deal. They're fine with it. In fact, many of them probably think it's a better deal than having to look at modern art in the shape of Foucault's freaking toilet. Like the degeneracy of our society. They probably prefer their morality and their moral schema. These women probably prefer it, right? So they don't fight for it. And women don't fight for their societies. At least this woman doesn't. Okay? This is the void at the heart of femininity. The void that, and I'll do another illustration of the void. French woman, after the occupation of France by the Nazis, describing how deliciously bestial and proud the Nazis were as they marched into town, right? Their heads held high, this tall, handsome, aggressive, athletic men, just drooling, this French woman drooling over them. And then describing French men as being these beaten, slovenly, furtive creatures just scuttling around.
Yeah.
That is the void at the heart of femininity. No investment in their societies. Their societies bend over backwards to give this woman everything, to powder her ass from crib to grave. And she has absolutely no sense of loyalty or expectation of investment in that society. None whatsoever. She's literally saying, I, as a woman, as a modern empowered woman, am going to use my empowerment, not even in the service of future women who might benefit from it. Oh no, it's only in the service of myself. And I shall take this society with me because I will not have children. I have no interest in investing in it. I'm just going to take that bag and I'm going to enjoy that bag and I'm going to leave a smoking crater for everyone else. This is the void at the heart of femininity.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable. And yeah, this woman, if this society gets conquered, guess where her ass is going to be? Right up in the conqueror's face. Would you like a little coochie coo? Oh, thank you, master. She has no sense of investment in this culture. None. None. And honestly, I find this utterly despicable. I know that maybe somebody like Karen might have softer words than I would for this because,
Yeah.
women have to deal with the fact that they get conquered and all that shit. Bullshit. All right. Yeah. Yes, women have had to deal with that. Do you know how Northern Germanic women dealt with it? Well, I'll tell you how. Okay. when they were conquered, the Teutons were conquered at, I think, the Battle of Cambrai by the Romans, and the line broke of their men. Okay, the men fled. The ones that didn't die fled. Their women cut their throats of the fleeing men. Then they cut the throats of their children. Then they cut their own throats. Because when their society died, those women died with it. And that was their pledge, and that was their honor, and that was their loyalty to their society. And guess which culture? Actually, let me just go south. The Sabine women. They waded into, like, it's a little bit more of a domestic story. It's not quite as flippin' metal as the Northern Europeans. But the Sabine women, when the Sabine men were going to be slaughtered by the Roman men, or the fight was between their fathers, the Sabine men were the Sabine women's fathers, and they come to rescue them, their brothers and fathers, and their husbands. They waded into battle to stop it because they were invested in their men to the point of risking their lives. Okay? And then you have the combination of the Northern Teuton women's attitude of a complete loyalty to their social system, and the Sabine women's attitude of loyalty to their menfolk. And then what comes from that? A freaking world-spanning civilization. Why? Because their women invested in it to the point of death. This woman is not just spitting on the sacrifices of men. She's spitting on the sacrifices of every woman that she stands on who invested in this society up to their death. She is a piece of loathsome human trash. And now I'll tell you what I really feel.
Tell me what you really think.
Okay, I'm just glad I didn't wake. I think the cat's okay. She's not upset. I think she's outside, so she's okay. I didn't upset the cat. That's what I'm concerned about. But I just like this. Okay.
All right.
Shall we continue?
Yeah, there's a little bit left, so.
Privilege and power for men. Historically, men established dominance within patriarchal through wealth, political, connection, military strength, as well as through marriage and children. As historian Stephanie Kuntz points out, for thousands of years, marriage was itself a way of, whether by expanding the family labor force, as in some ranked horticultural societies.
Oh, it seems like this is skipping.
Yeah,
You know
I know. I'm trying to find where I'm trying to look at the I'm trying to look at, well, okay. Do you want me to like I'll play the last minute.
Big men collected wives and used their labor and their children's labor to establish networks of or in class societies where marriage was a way.
Oh yeah, she's just basically doing the communist gobbledygook. I don't know if we even need to go any further with this.
All right. Yeah.
Okay,
fine.
and here we have the communist gobbledygook, everyone.
Yeah.
Patriarchy is capitalism. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. Everybody who's
family is a
to...
form of capital that needs to be disrupted. That's why feminists are against fathers in the home, because it's hierarchical, but they are for, at least their claim is, they're for, what do they call it? Villages and mothers and grandmothers and aunts and relatives and beings of the not male persuasion raising children.
Just anything
children,
not male.
which I assume will also be women, because can't have boys. I mean, unless you can like mutilate their genitals and turn them into eunuchs and then, raise those. So
yeah, I'm saying this for the people who constantly say that feminism is a subset of Marxism. No.
Yeah.
This is just capitalism is patriarchy. Property rights is patriarchy, which is men. Okay, this is all just anti-men. And meritocracy is most definitely patriarchy. So, going out and building a business, that's a patriarchy, even though women have done it throughout all of human history. That's a patriarchy. Like everything. Like it's even if it has some relation to Marxism, the power comes from condemning men. And
Yeah.
that's where it all starts. Okay. I guess we could do like the full breadth of commie gobbledygook, but I don't know if I'm feeling it.
Oh no, I'm done. This has been 2.5 hours, almost 3 hours. So
Yeah, I don't feel the need to go through the nonsense. She's this person who has an inability to understand the future, understand investment, and see anything outside of egocentric belief systems is going to lecture us on how economies work. It doesn't even understand where the modern finance system came from, because she doesn't understand the ridiculousness of saying, well, women didn't have women didn't have a bank accounts like 2 centuries ago. Yes, because there weren't banks that the average person could access. Okay.
yeah.
All right, let's I think well, maybe 2 centuries ago there might have been. Only if you were rich though. Okay. Let us okay then. All right. So if you should I just go into it? Like the
Yeah,
end?
go into it.
All right.
I don't
So
see any more super chats or anything like that, so yeah.
okay. All right. So, everyone, if you have anything you want to tell us, do so at feedthebadger.com/justthetip. Very best way for you to send us a tip, and the best way for you to send your message, because not only do you avoid YouTube's box of mystery, comment box of mystery, we get the full benefit of whatever funds you send. And you get a little more space to talk, and those comments go somewhere where they stay, and we can look at them after the show. So feedthebadger.com/justthetip for that. Feedthebadger.com/support if you want to support the show, so you can continue to get this edifying content where I regularly just rage at the femsheen. And yeah, so feedthebadger.com/support for that. We do definitely rely on you to help us to make sure we can continue to do this. So everybody who is supporting, you give yourself a pat on the back. You're great. And you're the reason why we continue to be able to do this. And if you do want to help us out, feedthebadger.com/support. There are also options to create subscriptions. All right.
Yep.
So that's that. That's the thing. So back to you, Brian.
All right. Well, if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today, and please share this video, because sharing is caring. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of the Red Pill Dating Show, and we'll talk to you guys in the next one. Have a good weekend.
Men's right activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.